That's how it looks from our Porsche aerial camera. Just loving it every time I see it. If you haven't done so already, if you're watching us on ESPN 3, then please go back to the homepage and select Sebring Part 2 from the schedule. It's important that you do that for our archive purposes. We continue into the second half of the race, Jeremy, looking down on the massed ranks of sports car supporters who seem to be in as good a fettle as any this year. It's a good atmosphere. We've got a number of people out here from Europe who've come for the first time. So I think it's people here just don't seem to understand just how much atmosphere there is. There is the safety car with the line up behind it. Gives us a chance to go down into the pit lane and find out a little bit more about the trials and tribulations of Neil Yarney and the number 12 Rebellion Lola with Jamie.
Well, during the Rebellion pit stop, they did have a small fire on pit lane. You see the crew right here, they're scraping off the thermal paper that is on the underside of the engine cover. They did have a spare, so there is a new engine cover out on the 12 car. That's one of the reasons they decided to go ahead and run the old car, was because they did have spares. They could have got one new car from Lola, but it would not have come with the spare package. This right here, though, the engine cover they're scraping this paper off of, this is the only engine cover they have left, which is why they're taking it off, just in case they need another one later on in the race. I checked in with the team and they said they don't believe that there was any other damage to that car, so they did send him back out, and everything seems to be performing just all right now.
And if you're thinking that doesn't look like it's a nice job, you'd be
using gloves.
Absolutely right. That is a filthy, horrible, sticky, awful job. And once again, sports car racing is a team sport.
So that car dropped the car back one lap, and I think just before we went to caution here, Simon Pagenaud was put 2 laps down by Timo Bernhardt and Dindo Capello. And
Timo's in the lead now as well, we should mention as well. He just sneaked through before we went to that full course caution. They're still pretty close together on the track. I don't even want to think about that.
Welcome back.
The reports of the demise of car 1 were somewhat exaggerated. Gear selection problems. It's back. It's sitting there, and it does it have a driver in it?
Yeah, really.
I'm not sure it does. There's a set of tyres coming out.
Yeah, there's somebody moving around, or something moving around inside, I think.
Nice.
15 laps, I think it seems to be now. Well, 16 laps perhaps behind the race leader.
Oh, leaders. Sorry, yes.
Oh, no, maybe Pagenaud, maybe he didn't lose that lap then. So the score now is showing him just 1 lap down, not 2. So that's good news, because he was certainly in danger of going a lap down.
I think he's way back in the queue because he was in danger of going another lap down. So he will, of course, been able to have followed round and get back on the back of the crocodile. Now, earlier on we were talking to Taro about Vulcan tyres, as he comes from the world of drifting. Jamie's down in the pit lane with more news on the round black things at each corner. It is quite literally sometimes a black art. Jamie.
Yeah, so what I did this week was I checked in with all of the different tire manufacturers. In sports car racing, we do have lots of manufacturers competing against each other: Michelin, Dunlop, Yokohama, Falcon, and Pirelli. And what you see on the screen on the graphic, the ready number, that's how many tires those tire manufacturers had to have here prepared and ready to race should the team ask for them. The expected number, that's how many they expect to use during the 12-hour race. So look at Michelin, for example, 4,000 tires they have here on site ready to use. They only expect to use about 1,500 of them. With some of the teams being able to double and triple synth, though, that number could go down, but the variation comes from the different compounds. But all of these tire manufacturers they're prepared for whatever the team's asked for. I mean, it's just a huge, huge effort that goes into getting those little round black things out on the track. Rick DeBrule?
Yeah, and then there's the little things they have to think about. Tire weights, check these out. These are the ones that Michelin have brought, and they brought several hundred feet of these that they'll use during the course of the weekend. They're a composite, they don't use lead anymore. They're just adhesive on the back, they stick them on and send them out. Once again, several hundred feet of these for those 1,1400 tires that Michelin will actually use on the track.
Got to love the show and tells. Good stuff, guys. Good homework from Jamie and Rick down there in the pit lane, taking you behind the wall and behind the technology of sports car racing.
Pit stops being made here.
As the pits are open, Dindo Capello comes in. Timo Bernhard stays out. Again, split strategy at the front of the field. David Brabham comes in the 22 JRM. Stefan Sarazan in the leading P2 car. And there is Dindo Capello. Clean of the screen. Dindo is out of the car. Kelly.
Dindo is out. Alan McNish is in as they continue to fuel the diesel Audi. They're completing that. Now they're going to put on those fresh Michelin tires. Just moments before this, we saw the #1 Audi come in after it had been back behind the wall for some repairs. They waited for the pit wall, the pits to open, and gave Marcel Fessler some fresh rubber and sent him on his way. And now we see Alan McNish on his way out of pit lane as well.
Pit lane exit is closed at the moment. They will not be allowed to move at the moment because the line of cars are still coming through. The #1 is being held, but this is pretty good timing for Alan McNish because by the time he gets there, the red flag has been removed and Alan trundles merrily on his way.
And interesting, they chose to pit the #2 car, but not the #3. The last time around, last pit stops were made at just 2 laps apart by these two cars. Lap 156 for car #2 and lap 158 for car #3. So interesting they chose to keep Timo Bernhard out on the racetrack. Simon Pagenaud, though, does make a pit stop, as did David Brabham in the JRM HPD. So the HPDs are now running in 3rd and 4th places, albeit I think a lap apart.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy Shaw with John Hindhoff. And we've gone over the half distance. We had a bit of action to talk through, so we had to put back for a wee while the FOT mid-race recap. At half distance, the race leader was Dindo Capello in the #2. Seen him come back into the pits, give up the lead to Timo Bernhard, and Alan McNish now in that car. At that point, we had 5 full course cautions, and although 63 cars had started the race, only 2 had retired, officially at least. So not the great attrition rate that all the doom-mongers had predicted. And actually, I've got to say, Jeremy, and hang on, let me touch something wood, and we have got wood, now Salubrious new apartment here. I think the driving standards, generally speaking, have been pretty good. The guys have focused their minds, and the incidence of car-to-car contact, yes, we've seen some people go off, yes, we've seen some accidents, but for the most part, the car-to-car contact has been minimal.
It has, and you know, 2 cars officially out of the race, and one of those was the #58 car that was out even before effectively before the green flag flew. That incident coming up toward the green flag. So since then, 6 hours of running and only 1 other car out of the race. That's amazing. Also
shows, though, the whole ethos of getting the cars back out there and throwing the cars back out. This is the first race of the season. Everybody's trying to get those cars back out to get the points for the season. Now we'll expect to see the GT cars come in this time. Are they playing my tune? Tommy Milner leading that category from Mark Lee, #4 from #77 from 03, and there they are. And in fact, it's 4 and 77, the 2 first cars into the pit lane. Flying Lizard just sitting in behind them. It looked like the 03 of Antonio Garcia was a couple of cars further back. There's the Aston Martin going in from 6th place with Turner at the wheel. Turner of the Darren variety, that would be. Bryce Miller. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, we have both Corvettes coming in for a pit stop this time. It's very crowded down here right now. We got the BMW's coming in as well. Remember, we talked earlier about how at one point they planned it out where they didn't have both Corvettes on pit road at the same time. This time they do. The front car, number 4, no driver change. In the back, the 03 car, Jordan Taylor has gotten into that car. So they're going to go through 2 tire stops here. Hopefully the plan to get both of them out safely. If all goes well, the 04 car will go out first, which has happened. Kelly?
The 77 Porsche just left. Mark Lieb came in and switched driving duties. Now with Patrick Pilet, who's behind the wheel now. Looked like a relatively smooth stop. However, at the very end, it looked like they were trying to reach for a tariff on the windscreen, which was pretty dirty. They didn't get to it. They just sent him on his way. All in all, though, a pretty quick stop there for the 77 Porsche.
Well, I think the 77 may have dropped a couple of places there on that little fumble. Look at the marks, the scarmy marks on that windscreen. That wasn't a very good job. I think I'd be not tipping the windscreen cleaner there on the battery tender Alex Job Racing 023. I have a suspicion that the 77 has dropped back a little bit. And indeed, it has dropped down to some positions. Now, we saw the driver change on the number 3 Corvette. Rick de Bruyl can update us on what was going on there.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're going to be a Corvette driver, there's a couple things you need to have. Number 1, you got to be a great driver. But number 2, you can't be too big. Check this out. This is the size of the opening that the Corvette drivers have to climb through. Yeah, it's a whole door like a Corvette has, but because of the side protection, it's a very narrow area. It's about 20, one side is 17, the longest side is 21 inches. So cut this out at home and figure out if you can climb through it, because if you can't, then you can't do this. By the way, just for the record, I want you to know that Johnny O'Connell can climb through this.
Quack.
I could be thrown through it. I could be thrown through it. I'm not sure I could bend myself through that one. I think I may have to retire from international sports car racing shortly, because I'm not sure I can bend my knees to get up now. There's the 56 BMW. That's been on pit lane rather too long, I fancy. Jonathan Summerton brought that car in. Johnny O'Connell is one of our colleagues that was inducted into the Hall of Fame in the ABC booth. I see those highlights tomorrow here in the United States. And Johnny, I'm not really fit through that hole.
John, I didn't only just fit through, I fit through gracefully, okay? And I could still fit through, and man, if they called me, no offense to all my friends at ABC and ESPN that I love so much, but if a Corvette called me right down there right now, I'd say, give me a helmet, man, put me in. It is murder watching this for me, but I'm also very, very excited about it. I mean, getting into that car, man, 10 years, it was a blast every time.
Johnny O'Connell inducted into the Sebring Hall of Fame this weekend, and rightfully and deservedly so as well. Will be part of the team on ABC for our highlights show tomorrow from the 60th anniversary running of Mobil 1, 12 hours of Sebring. Check local listings for details. Timo Bernhard leads out with over 9 seconds at the line between himself and Alan McNish. The next car back is the number 12 of Neil Yarney, who's dropped a couple of 3 laps back, and there's the traffic jam. Oh my goodness me!
There's a lot of discipline required here, I can tell you. I mean, you know, you've really got to have your wits about you, because there's a lot of performance differentiation between these cars amongst that pack there. Look at that!
Oh my goodness me! That number 1 car just back out of the paddock area, had gearbox problems. And
number 15 there, Guillaume Moreau.
Fessler in the Audi, Guillaume Moreau in the 15 Oak Racing car.
They got themselves back up to 8th place overall.
Another pit lane speed violation being picked up for the 1-8 car, the 18 car.
Performance Tech Motorsports in PC.
It's the first time we've called that car's name as far as the penalties are.
Yeah, they've obviously had some problems. They're quite a few laps down in 8th place in PC. Class now has been led by
oh my goodness, 3 wide through the apex of the corner. Remember what Marino Franchini was telling us earlier on, everything is focused at the apex of the corner because of the narrow performance differences between the different types of cars. It's actually See you,
Gotta
mate.
be patient.
No.
Just gotta be patient.
But the thing is, you're there, Jeremy.
crazy,
You can't
isn't it?
disappear, can you?
No, exactly.
It's not the beam me up Scotty situation. I'm sure plenty of people would love to be.
Just to clarify this, Alex Popow now is leading in PC in the 06 car for Core Autosport. Second place is young Pablo Sanchez from Mexico, who's been a revelation in the number 7 car for the brand new team.
And there is the leader in PC, just going through the centre of the shot, the 06 car.
Merchant Services Racing running 2 cars here, and one of them car number 7 in second place, and Ken Dobson now for PR1 Motorsports with Matheson Motorsports running 3rd in PC.
Side-by-side action as we try again to go 3 wide. That was the Black Swan car. I hate to borrow anyone else's phraseology as we went 4 wide
there,
for a moment, but our friends on the stock car circuit always say yellows breed yellows, and this is why. Look at that. Now, in fairness, our camera makes it look slightly closer than it is, but not much. That's a very wide angle lens.
Yes, it is.
Oh, and there we are. That is the 5 car.
Oh no, that's Roger Wills, 4th place in PC for the Muscle Milk car. He's sharing that car with Memo Gidley and Michael Gouache are going to be the full season drivers. Look at this, almost come to a standstill down in turn 7.
And I got that the wrong way around. Because it's a wide angle lens, it's actually much closer than you think it is, particularly in terms of linear. Side by side is pretty much the same, but as close as those cars were, they would have been right tucked up under the rear wing of the number 03 when we saw them the first time.
It's the Kiwi driver there, Roger Wills, a long-time vintage car driver and done quite a lot of professional racing as well, or semi-professional racing over the last few years, but he's damaged, obviously, the suspension of that car. What a disaster.
Yeah, left rear suspension damage and rear wing that is not as aerodynamically efficient as perhaps it was when it left Orica. Let's go down to the pits, Richard Bull.
Yeah, I just want to talk about how frustrating it is for this team. To be honest with you, they had high hopes coming into this race. Interesting thing they were able to do, they found out early they were going to put the team together, and so as a result, they had some test days that they scheduled before they were an official entrant. Normally they only get 6 test days, but because they did them before they were an official entrant, they got extra test days because no one keeps track of people who aren't official entrants. So once again, they came in, they had high hopes, they thought everything was sorted, they had a good car running with the Muscle Milk folks, they thought they had everything in hand, but once again, anything can happen in 12 hours.
And you're probably going to say that...
You get here, we're going to fuel the car, and then we're going to go behind the wall. We're going to have you drive it behind the wall. So you're going to go down towards pit out, turn right, straight across, and turn right again into the paddock down.
That's very calm, very good. I like that, letting the driver know exactly what's going on, just like the very calm voice of a satellite navigation system. I think he may be driving that a tad quick. Has he punctured that tyre yet? If he hasn't, he's going to. And then he's in real trouble. There's definitely left rear suspension damage on that car. Let's have a look. Or is it just rubbing the bodywork? Let's have a look at the toe out as it goes away from us here. He's going to have sipes in that car. Tyre technology. There are grooves in the tyres. The worry is when the smoke stops, of course, because that means it's gone through all the rubber and it's going to puncture any second now. Actually done a pretty good job, I think, that. First of all, avoiding everybody who came by him, giving them plenty of room. Secondly, getting the car back to the...
A great shame, certainly for Memo Gidley and Michael Gouache. They're going to be sharing that car all season long, and really are hoping to go for the championship, and this is going to be a big blow for them.
That's the ALMS and WEC paddock there with the transporters. The support races have now all... Who was tooting the horn there? That was fantastic timing, it was. That's what it looks like when you've got 64 cars. The IMSA trailers at the hairpin end. Oh, yeah, that's gone.
Yeah.
That's gone. Oh. Well, whilst we have a little time with no racing, earlier on you might have heard us talking to Dr. Don Panos and to Marino Franchitti about an exciting new project. The Nissan Delta Wing makes a racing car look, well, distinctively different. It's a fantastic concept that was unveiled to the public in London on Tuesday, and to the race car world here yesterday.
Well, what you saw today was dreams coming true. The car does turn and it doesn't fly, and other people have said it, so I'll quote them. They said this could be a major mark in motorsports.
So we made a car that's basically half the weight of the current cars and half the drag, so we only needed half the amount of horsepower, which allowed us to burn half the fuel and use half the tyres.
You're looking for performance, you're looking for durability. You've got 4 inches worth of tread, you've got 5 kilograms only, 11 pounds. It's a fantastic challenge.
Challenges from the back of the car to the front of the car. But it's been a great journey. You know, these guys only got the green light less than a year ago, and now we're on track here at Sebring. Looking forward to going to Le Mans.
Marino Franchitti drove the car, and I had a long chat with him actually in the early part of last week. And I had to admit that I didn't think that car would ever go around corners. It does. So I did ask if they had any hats that I could eat, and Ben Bowlby and Marino were gracious enough not to force that on me. It will be interesting to see, as we said to Don, if we can get a 500 kilogram class to run some more cars like that in it. Well, not everybody can be so excited about the races as we are, but taking the time to catch a few rays here. 5.5 hours still to run. Your class leaders here at Sebring.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The new 911. Porsche identity.
To get 40 miles per gallon, most car makers compromise performance. But we're Mazda, and we don't compromise. The Mazda 3 with SkyActiv technology gets 40 miles per gallon highway without economy buttons or compromising how it drives. We build Mazdas. What do you drive? Now get the Mazda 3 with 0.9% APR for a limited term.
Be the first to wear the latest trends of the American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron. The official photo or poster t-shirts are available in 5 different colors, or you can purchase Roger Warwick's t-shirt featuring the past 59 Sebring winners. Also, don't forget to grab the 60th annual Sebring event poster and stop by the paddock to get all your favorite driver signatures. The ALMS merchandising booth will be selling all of your favorite limited edition Sebring items throughout the day. And for those of you at home, be sure to check out ALMS.com to purchase your piece of Sebring history.
Inside the second half of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, fueled by Fresh from Florida. Hello there, it's John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw and Marino Franchitti joining us again as we look down from the Porsche aerial cam on what can only be described as a party zone for petrol heads. Yep, Sebring has been attracting the great and the good of sports cars ever since the first race in 1952, and that includes the spectators as well. And there are many people who have long histories surrounding this track and coming to watch here. We're under full course caution. This is the reason why, or this is the car that caused it. A Muscle Milk PC car on the restart. Cautions breed cautions as we're waiting for the leader to come in, and he hasn't done yet. And in fact, as I say that, here comes Timo Bernhard into the pit lane. This is the number 3 Audi. Alan McNish already installed in the number 2 car, and he has gone through and taken the lead.
We say Romain Dumas climbed behind the wheel of that number 3 Audi, taking over for Timo Bernard. Remember, these two drove together for Roger Penske in a Porsche Spyder and won overall here at Sebring back in 2008 in the P2 class. These guys have spent a lot of time driving together. You can see the driver change seemed to be very quick. Now as the Audi crew goes to work putting on those fresh tires, this appears to be a really quick, smooth pit stop. And Romain Dumas stalls it getting out, but now he's under power.
Not sure he did stall it there. I think he was just being careful not to run out into that GTC Porsche. And he was being told by his team member, who was just a bit ahead of him, I think, to what they would call in the F1 world, make sure it wasn't an unsafe release.
And by splitting the strategies here, the Audi team has very much disadvantaged this car compared to Alan McNish, who now will take over at the front. Well, depending on who they pick up at the restart here, will have a big advantage over the number 3 car. But if they pick up another class leader, then it won't be quite so bad. But still, it's certainly going to split these 2 cars up, having been running pretty much nose to tail before these last 2 caution periods, John. Just before the break, Marino, we had a look at the Delta Wing being unveiled earlier on this week. You've driven it round here and done a little bit of early testing in it. And the questions that most people want to know is, how the heck do you know where the rear wheels are, and how do you position it on the track?
Well, it's obviously great to be showing off the Nissan Delta Wing here this weekend in public. We started running a couple of weeks ago, and you know, I got out and I was trying to think of something really deep and meaningful to say, and all I could say was it feels like a racing car, and it does. As for positioning it, I guess in a go-kart you've got a much wider rear end than front end, and I honestly thought in my mind that was going to be something very big and very difficult to get used to, was placing the car. And within a lap, I was already placing the car exactly where I wanted. So, yeah, the things that I thought were going to be issues were not. So far, the car's been just, I mean, within 2 laps, you know if a car's good. And within 2 laps, I was just grinning from ear to ear. I was loving it.
It's a very different concept, Marino. So does the language that you need to use to the engineers change? Or are the basic precepts of it being a racing car, albeit a one that looks very different, do they remain the same, or have you had to find new terminology?
I think at this stage they've remained the same. As we go on and get deeper into the program, possibly it will, and it will create its own language. So far, it's all the basics that you're taking care of with early tests, but obviously we're going to run here at Sebring this week with the car. My teammate Michael Crum's going to get to come and try it for the first time. So far so good with the car. Cars, as I said before, either feel good or they don't, and this car feels good. It feels like a sports car. It feels like a prototype, and for me that's the important thing. The aerodynamics of the car are so impressive. The downforce it produces while being so aerodynamically efficient is very impressive, and you know, all the partners involved in the Delta Wing deserve a huge pat on the back for it.
Quick final thought on it. I always, when I talk to drivers and they talk about excess weight, like ballast, success ballast, me sitting alongside them or whatever it is, they always say that you can feel that additional weight. So this car being only 500 kilograms, can you, if this makes sense, feel the lack of weight?
Absolutely. The thing weighs in at less than about 1,000 pounds, and you certainly feel that. We only need, our aim with this car is to achieve very close to P1 performance at the moment with half the weight, half the power, and most importantly using half the fuel and half the tyres. If we can go to Le Mans and produce that performance using half the fuel, that changes our whole game. So,
what sort of suspension travel does it have, particularly at the front?
I'm not exactly sure of the exact amounts, but it was a pretty bumpy track at Buttonwillow where we shook it down and tested, and I had no issues with travel. I mean, really, the front,
because they're only 4-inch tyres.
Absolutely,
tiny little spring shock thing on the front there as well.
Yeah, it doesn't feel small. I mean, the front, I think we said if you put the bodywork on the front, we wouldn't feel a huge difference. So that's I think that's a big compliment for the car. But it's definitely, once we get up to the limits and everything else, is it going to change? Who knows? But that's the exciting thing about this program, to get to do something so radical, to follow the footsteps of a lot of my heroes and do something so outside the box, and you know, I've got to thank Nissan and all the people at Deltawing for allowing me to be part of that.
Could it be the start, you're a student of the sport, could it be the start of a whole new category of race cars, the 500 kilo class perhaps?
I've no idea, but for me,
because that's quite exciting if it was.
I just hope that it starts us thinking in a totally different way for motorsport, because our sport needs to become more efficient. We have to keep, with diesel and everything else, we push the boundaries and push technology on in road cars, but we need to make an even bigger step going forward. So that's what I hope this does.
We should mention it's running outside of the rules. That's what Garage 56 is at Le Mans. It's not just a place to put a car, it's a state of mind. And the ACO, again, I think quite bravely, have allowed cars that don't conform to any current set of regulations to come if they feel that they are technologically advanced enough or they're pushing forward people's thinking. So you're not within any kind of rule book at the moment.
We're a class of one, which is fantastic, and that's great. We obviously want to go there, respect everyone else's race, and we have goals that we're setting. You know, we have a time that we want to achieve. All these goals that we're setting, that's what we want to achieve. That's our race, that's our victory at Le Mans. But just to get to take that thing round, Le Mans is going to be fantastic. And
you did get a chance to drive the car at Buttonwillow Raceway Park during
Yes,
California.
I've done the most running in the car.
And working then with Dan Gurney's guys who put that whole thing together. Dan's workshop there in Santa Ana are fairly amazing, aren't they?
It's unbelievable to get to spend a lot of time there, to get to hold the 1967 champagne bottle from Le Mans that started our tradition, and to get a champagne shaking masterclass from Dan was something else. But yeah,
all the photos there lined up, isn't that amazing?
It's just a petrol head's dream. Unbelievable.
Just trying to see if the pace car lights
are in 17.
Looks like the lights are out.
Here we go.
Yeah, so that's perfect. Marino, stay with us. We'll ask you for some notes on the race in a moment. Green, and it's the 055, the first of the class leaders, João Barbosa. Safe pair of hands, I would have thought, coming to the green flag, and is, as McNish goes through.
Indeed, and now we have to wait for Romain Dumas to come through as well. So he's way back in the pack. So as I was saying, greatly disadvantaged here. That's the #1 car, which of course is quite a few laps down, but back in the fray.
Yeah, down in 35th position.
17 laps behind the race leader.
It's the problem with the gear shifter earlier on. It looks all very calm and collected out front, but once again, look a little further back. Starts to get busier here. Busier still as through goes Klaus Graf in 3rd position. On board with him. Best of the petrol cars. And a car that, Marino, you know very well, drove its predecessor.
Yeah, absolutely. We only got to run this car once here last year. And it's great to see both Muscle Milk and JRM having such strong performances, and hopefully those guys can get on the podium, because I just think that would be a great start, especially the ALMS car with the Muscle Milk car being such a new car to them and showing the performance they are. It's very impressive.
6 and 22 are indeed 3rd and 4th position at the moment, although a lap apart, Klaus Graf and David Brabham. And
I've kind of got that feeling with Brabs like we had last year, where we got the car less than a week before the race, and next thing we were 2nd overall here. So I've got the feeling that it's interesting. Do you think that Audi are now going to kind of hold station some more since they've lost one of their runners? Do you think that changes their approach?
I think it does a little bit, Marino, because the car that's had the problems is the car that's registered for points. The 1 and 2 car, the full season entries. And I think it maybe will. There's Brabs in the black and red machine. I mean, both JRM and Muscle Milk are really stepping into the unknown in some respects. JRM particularly, they've run GT cars before and rally cars. They've never run a prototype, and they had to put this car together in pretty much 8 days before it went in the container to come across here. And in Muscle Milk's defence, I would say, and in praise of them too, yes, they've run prototype cars before, but they've never run brand new prototypes that they've had to get their heads around and start to develop. They've taken them on when the car has been at a pretty set specification.
No, absolutely. I think the great thing is the package, although it's different aero package from one we had last year, it's very similar. Talking to the guys at Worth Technology that produced the car for HPD, they're telling me that the car is very closely related to what we had last year. It's allowed them to do a higher downforce setup for this race, because what people probably don't know is we ran this car in Le Mans downforce last year, which was pretty unbelievable for a new car.
And that's super competitive, that car too. And I think that's it's still the bodywork that's the biggest change, I believe, from that car from last year to this, isn't it? Just particularly the front aerodynamics there have been improved quite dramatically. I mean, that car was, I think, a couple of seconds quicker than you guys were going last year.
Absolutely, it's good to see also the Lola, the Lotus car running very well as well.
I've got to say, I think Brabs is going to get a bit cheesed off with the 13 at the moment, because he's holding them up quite considerably and his laps down. Let's go back to GT. No quarter Astor given there, with Tommy Milner there in the number 4 Corvette, leading from that. Ferrari in second place. That's Bertolini back up to second place again after his trials and tribulations and braking problems down at the hairpin. The 97 of Darren Turner, the Aston Martin, finding form again, as we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, is in third place. And then the 155, the 155 of Bill Oberlin, the first of the Crown Plaza BMWs. All still on the lead lap, by the way. Jordan Taylor in the second of the Vets is right there as well in 5th position. 6th is the Patrick Pilet 77, and 7th is the 56 GT of the BMW of Dirk Muller. All still on the lead lap, that top 7, and the Aston Martin running in 3rd position with Darren Turner at the moment. A considerably changed car from the last time we saw it, and bringing a smile to the face to everyone involved, including Adrian Fernandez, who's down in the pits.
When we had become quite accustomed to seeing Adrian Fernandez behind the wheel of the prototype cars, now you've made the move back to GT with this Aston Martin Vantage. What were your expectations coming into Sebring?
Well, like you say, I've never driven a GT, so it's a totally new experience. You have to look more at the camera and the mirrors, and the car moves a lot more, it's a lot heavier. But I'm really enjoying the experience. I had 2 great stints, and I'm very, very close and competitive to my teammates, Darren and Stefan, which has a lot of experience in these cars, so it's looking good. I just need miles on these cars.
I think a lot of people had some question marks as to how well this Aston Martin would perform here. You guys sit 3rd right now, still a lot of time left, but are you exceeding even your own expectations?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, the Aston Martin Lowe's car is doing fantastic. You know, it's definitely doing better than I thought. We struggle a little bit in practice, but the car is really performing well in race, so we have to be there at the end, and hopefully we get to the podium.
All right, thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
There's the 155 in 4th place, Bill Oberlin. Hello to Anthony Davidson, who is tuned into us here on ESPN from Melbourne. He's working on Sky TV for Formula 1. He's one of the Toyota drivers, and he's just tweeted through to us to say, looks like the fans need the Toyota hybrid to make it a little bit tighter at the front. I'm not sure, Ant. I think you're going to have your work cut out, mate. Back down the pit lane as Rick de Bruyne has more for us.
Well, I was talking about Bill Auburn and the fact that this is actually a slow day in the office for him. You know, when he's not here, he runs offshore power boats. He has a power boat that has 3,200 horsepower. Can you imagine that? 3,200 horsepower. He had it up to 183 miles an hour on the water. Now, I'm a car guy. I can handle that. I once went like 70 or 80 on the water, and it scares me to death. That's his hobby in the off-season. And in fact, he's even formed a company. It's called X-Power Drive to make drive units for offshore power boats. So, yeah, this looks fast. This looks dangerous. But his hobby is even more so.
He gets the guys at Ilmore to build special engines for his boats because the stock engines aren't good enough.
I believe I also believe he developed a different way of laying up carbon fiber for one of his boats a while ago. I mean, he's a very, very clever guy.
That 77 Porsche's in this battle as well, and that's got Patrick Pilet at the wheel, the Felbermeyer Porsche upholding the Porsche honours at the moment, and right in the thick of that 7-car GT battle, which are all still on the lead lap after, let's remind everybody, 6 3/4 hours of the 12. Still got 5 hours and 15 minutes to go, with Alan McNish leading the motor race in the number 2 Audi, but the attention focused on the street fight in the street car category. And, that is Darren now with his mirrors full in that Aston Martin of Bill Oberlin. A couple of little errors early on from the BMW team, which they'll be cursing themselves for. Picked up a couple of penalties, both cars. Uncharacteristically, Jeremy, lack of concentration. Pele gets a little sideways coming up in the Ullman straight.
Yeah, this is a tremendous battle, isn't it? And there's the Porsche there, and Jordan Taylor too hanging right in there.
Yes, he is.
That 4-car battle for 3rd place in GT. The 2 leaders are only barely a couple of seconds up the road as well. Just to note quickly about PC, we saw Bruno Junqueira and the RSR team with Tommy Dreesy and who? Tommy Dreesy and Roberto Gonzalez, that's right, the Mexican driver, drove in Champ Car about 7 or 8 years ago. His first races since then. They were running super strong, they were leading the class and then running second when a little while ago they had a problem, a clutch problem apparently, has put that RSR car behind the wall and into the garage.
Question for you here, and it's a very good one, and I've never even thought about this. At Le Mans, where does the Delta Wing start? Where you qualify, or do you start at the back?
That's actually a good question, and one that I don't know the answer to, but we
this
can
is from
endeavour to find
Joy
out.
on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter where we start. Off the back would probably be the best way, just to stay out of all the
anybody else's battles.
Yeah. So, but again, that's way above my pay grade, so someone else will have to make that decision.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. It's Aston Martin still out there in 3rd position for Darren Turner, Bertolini and Milner ahead of him in the GT category, whilst at the front of the field Alan McNish is leading the race from his teammate Romain Dumas. And we'll take a short break, but not before we've looked at some more history of Sebring 1966.
At Sebring in 1966, the Ford versus Ferrari battle was at its peak, and the Sebring entry was impressive. Dan Gurney, co-driving with Jerry Grant, was the fastest qualifier in a Shelby American Ford Mark II, but he was unable to get off the grid. After the entire field was well underway, Gurney finally got his Ford started, but was already nearly a lap behind. Amazingly, he found himself in the lead in less than 2 hours. As the race reached its final minutes, Gurney held a comfortable lead over the Shelby American team car of Lloyd Ruby and Ken Miles. But heading down the back straight of the final lap, Gurney's engine seized. With victory lane in sight, he got out of his Ford and started pushing it toward the finish line. The Ruby Miles Ford passed Gurney in the dramatic final minute and won the race.
What do you drive? Is it inspiring? Was it built by a behemoth car maker? Or insightful craftsmen obsessing over the details, building better cars for a discerning few? Are you one of the few who care about what you drive and how it drives? We're with you because we believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
Hi, I'm Dennis Gage, and I gotta tell you about a smart charging system that keeps my entire fleet of machines on call at all times. It's called Battery Tender, and it's not just for my classic cars. Deltran battery tenders have a microprocessor that monitors everything. It never overcharges. It just takes batteries up to a full charge and keeps them there. So whether it's cars, motorcycles, mowers, or ATVs, Battery Tender keeps them all ready for action. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
The wind can run, but it can't hide.
Presenting the official American Le Mans Series merchandise collection. Inspired by the world leader in green racing. Represent your favorite series with authentic event shirts, hats, jackets, and other gear. It's available at every race in Vendor Village and, of course, at ALMS.com.
It's just too much sometimes. If he's like this now, he's not going to be able to go to Le Mans and work. Or, if you can sleep anywhere, maybe. Let's bring you up to date with the Michelin Green X Challenge. Remember, we're looking for clean and efficient as well as fast. It's the Muscle Milk Pickett Racing HPD that leads by a considerable margin over the two Level 5 Motorsports P2 cars. Remember, that Muscle Milk car is a P1. Hasn't changed much either in Corvette racing, but the margins are very much smaller. And just a little bit extra speed or a few extra laps on a tank of fuel. So no changes there, but we have just had a second place change in GT as Andrea Bertolini has been relegated back down to third, and that promotes Bill Oberlin in the 155 BMW up to second place, chasing down a former teammate of his, Tom Milner. So again, some inter-rivalry. Now here's how it happened, coming on the start-finish straight. Marino, good position from Bill.
No, absolutely. He's got a fantastic run out of 17, and he's just going to slot it down inside into one, which is a very brave thing to do. I mean, big respect to Bertolini there for actually giving Bill the room. He worked very well with him there, and you know, avoided contact, which is always good at this stage. When
we talk about people giving each other respect, as you said before, that's a perfect example of it.
Well, absolutely. I think Bertolini is a very experienced guy. He's someone that I like to race with because he can give and take. If that was an hour 11, no way he's going to give that much room. But at this stage, there's no point in fighting for every inch of the track. You just want to stay right in the hunt and position yourself well for the end of the race, and I would say that's what Bertolini's doing there.
There is the team car, the number 56. For those who didn't catch this earlier, we have got a few odd numbers. I'm back on with the 155, I think. We have got a few odd numbers with zeros and ones in front of them. The World Championship numbering system takes precedence, so if you have a car that's registered in the WEC with the number 55, for example, then you can't have another 55. So the ALMS cars go to 055, and then we have a second 55, then that has to be 155, etc. So just to give you an idea of why that's working as it is. We will revert at Long Beach to the normal numbers for the ALMS cars because we don't see the WEC cars again, sadly, in the American calendar. It's off to Spa next for the WEC. So McNish there, just carving his way through that battle as we were talking about it. Romain Dumas is some 3/4 of a minute behind. That is not the second placed Audi. That is still the number 1 car, which is just about to work its way out to the second page of timing. It's in 33rd position at the moment, 10th in class for Marcel Fesler. Jeremy.
Yeah, and that gap from first to second between the number 2 and number 3 Audis, as you say, just over 40 seconds. That's been about that way since we went back to green because of their slightly off-schedule pit stops or off-kilter pit stops relative to one another, with one coming in during the previous caution and one during the last caution. That explains that gap between the two, and once they got themselves through into clean air, then they're both able to run very similar speeds, but it was Dumas who lost out there, and working his way through the pack has cost him well over half a minute to the teammate Alan McNish.
Being at the front of the queue, front of the line, you obviously get an advantage, Marino, at the start of another green flag run, but typically in a field this size with the discrepancies in how the cars run, that may only last for what, a couple of laps?
Absolutely, but Alan seemed to, he had a momentum going that seemed to carry him through those first parts of traffic, and his averages, his times, maybe only 3 or 4 tenths, but every lap it seems he's quicker. He's just, now whether that's going to change and ebb and flow as Romain hits some of the traffic that Alan's cleared and vice versa, but so far it doesn't matter what kind of traffic has been put in Alan's way, he's maintaining that little advantage, and it seems the same for his 2 teammates as well. So obviously the 2 car's got a very, very good car. It can obviously run a lot of different lines and is working very well, not just on its own but in traffic as well.
Yeah, very quick lap last time, the lap before last by Klaus Graf, the 3rd place car, the Muscle Milk Racing HPD car, just ran a 47.9.
Wow.
A couple of laps ago. That is absolutely amazing. I mean, that's within a tenth of Alan McNish's best. It's a half a second down on, I think it was Timo Bernhard who set the fastest lap of the race just before he handed over that car to Romain Dumas, half an hour or so ago. But again, that 6th car absolutely flying with Klaus Graf now at the wheel. Simon Pagenaud we saw turning from super fast laps just beforehand, and now Klaus Graf picking up the mantle from Simon.
Had a couple of tweets in from people who are clearly watching us on the Snoop cam. If you haven't found it yet, it's on the new ALMS.com site.
Better things to do.
And Emma wanted to know what was in the brown bag earlier on. It was my lunch, Emma, and I still have a little bit of it left, so I'm putting it back down here. You can covet, but you can't have. And if you are doing that, let me remind you about this. This is the ALMS Spotter Guide. Andy Blackmore has put this together. You can get it at ALMS.com or spotterguides.com. Details all of the 64 starters, and it'll give you half a chance of spotting the cars and seeing the differences between them. Like, for example, the number 2 Audi has the yellow trim on the mirrors on the air intake on top of the cockpit, whereas the 1 car has the red and the 3 car has the black. And of course, black, yellow and red are the 3 colours of the German national flag. Other cars have slightly different ways of splitting their teammates, some of them more visible than others, in fairness. But thank you very much to Bart Hayden and Rebellion, who put extra tape on the wing mirrors of the 12s and the 13 and put red mirrors on one of the cars where it was black before. So thank you for that. That was yes, they were listening apparently the other day and gave us half a chance of being able to tell the 12 and the 13 apart. So GTC we haven't talked about for a while.
No.
Sean Edwards, Dejan von Moltke in second.
3 seconds behind only.
Yeah, exactly.
That car's moved up well into contention now again. Battery tender car. And Chris Cumming, who's 3rd place now for JDX Racing. He was leading for a little while actually. I think after the last round of pit stops, fallen back a little bit as Chris Cumming, but still running very, very strongly there in 3rd place in GTC.
We should mention GT AM is still the Corvette of Julien Canal. It's the 50 Labre competition car, but it's now Christian Reed in 2nd place in the GTE AM version of Felbermayer's car, 77 and 88 that car is, and in 3rd place it's the 2nd of the Labre competition.
The American Le Mans Series on ABC is brought to you by Mazda.
So that brings that up to date for you. In GT, it's still Milner, Orbel and Bertolini Turner, or if you prefer Corvette, BMW, Ferrari and Aston Martin, with Porsche in 5th place, just the 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. P2 is Olivier Pla in the 24 Oak Racing car from João Barbosa in the 055 level 5, so that's been a change since last I looked. Pierre Caffer in PCOM is in 3rd place, and Starworks in 4th, the 44 car. Peter Van, I think, will be pleased with their debut outing.
Yeah, and again, just a couple of seconds between the 2 leaders in P2. Olivier Pla leads, as you say, but João Barbosa just a couple of seconds back. So again, we've got some super battles in a whole bunch of different classes. We've got these 2 Audis, 2 at the front of the field. Of course, the number 1 car is much delayed, but up until the last few corners, actually, he was putting some pressure there on Alan McNish, having a bit of fun, I think, up Marcel Faisler.
Doesn't matter if he can go by McNish, can let him go, because he's so many laps back.
Alan doesn't like being passed by anybody, does he? Let's face it.
Not his own teammate, I would have thought. Is that old adage about beating your teammate still true, Marino? If you've got 2 sets of cars, it's a bit different in sports car racing from when you've got a team of drivers anyway, to just one guy driving one car sitting in the garage next to you.
True, but you still want your car to win. It's as simple as that. You don't want to be beaten by your sister cars. I think probably what Alan doesn't want is if Fassler's maybe, no offence to Marcel, but he seems to be really able to do the pace while he's following Alan. Whether he can still do that in front is another thing. So Alan doesn't want to find that out. He wants to be leading the way, getting through traffic in his own terms and not being compromised by somebody else in front of him. So I'm sure he's making that point on the radio.
Yeah, not having to look too much in the mirrors, so he can focus exactly on what's happening in front of him.
Well, one thing with Alan is all these years racing in the LMS and some of the crazy battles we had back in the years of 07 and 08, he's well experienced by having people running right behind him.
What's he like to race against?
He's fantastic, yeah, a lot of fun. I've I've always found he gives you just that amount of room that you need.
No more.
No more. But I mean, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but he came out of the pits and was on cool tyres and I was on warm tyres and I blasted past him. And for about 4 laps, I waved him past. And he couldn't quite get it done. And after the race, he's like, I was really trying, I just couldn't get past. So he's good to race against. I've always found him very fair, but obviously a very, very hard competitor. But that's what you should be. You're a racing driver. You're not out there trying to make friends.
Yeah, I've only ever raced against him in charity karting, and he takes that pretty seriously as well, to be fair. You're listening to the voices of Marino Franchitti with Jeremy Shaw and myself, John Hindhaugh, as we're watching the 60th running of the Sebring 12 hours. And let's have a look back down through some of the classes in the GTC category. Is Sean Edwards coming into shot in the Mobil dark red coloured Porsche, the NGT entered car. And he leads from Dion von Molke, but only by about 4 seconds. Should see the second place Porsche in the background of this shot in not too long a time, to be honest, gentlemen.
Pulled out a little bit on that lap. It's out to 6 this time around, but yeah, not an awful lot, certainly. And in GT too, or in GT also, Tommy Milner is now coming under increasing pressure from Bill Oberlin. We saw Bill Oberlin make that move on Andrea Bertolini a little while ago. Now he is closing in right onto the tail, I believe, of Tom Milner.
The 34 Green Hornet car, which had been right up there, started to drop back a bit, and then after a pit stop, don't forget it got its airline caught around the rear wing end plate and ripped part of the rear wing off. That delayed it. I think it's down in 6th place now, is it? Yes, it is, with Peter back at the wheel. There's Sean coming through on the far side of the circuit, just starting the local time at about 5:30. Just the change in the light, the lengthening of the shadows you start to notice, and that going down towards turn 17, which is nicknamed Sunset for obvious reasons.
You'll find out shortly.
It's starting to become an issue, and how much of an issue does that get, Marino?
It becomes a huge issue. If you have this stint, if I was driving into the dark here at Sebring, I would have a clear, there's a couple of things there. I actually developed a light sensitive tear off that I had last year, which as it would get dark would lighten up and become clear.
Talked about that battle for the lead in GT, and there you see the change down into the inside of the hairpin turn 7 goes Bill Oberlin, a new class leader once again in GT.
Been a fantastic battle, it really has, and softly catchy monkey for the ALMS runners this weekend, and particularly for BMW, who hadn't really had the power or the pace for the whole of the practice sessions, but now they lead.
And it has not been a trouble-free run. They had a few minor problems early on that caused them some extra time in the pits, but they've managed to overcome that. I talked to the team just a moment ago, and they said Bill Oberlin is having a blast. Every time he passes somebody, he lets out a war whoop on the radio. They said he is in the zone right now.
Yeah, that's Bill. He enjoys his drive, and met him the first time I came over to the States for the very first Petit Le Mans. Instantly latched onto him as somebody I could really get on with, and who could explain to me the differences in attitude about what was going on here in America.
Going to give a little plug here. The Road Racing Drivers Club, which is kind of the American equivalent to the BRDC in the UK, has developed, along with the a grant for the FIA Motorsports Development Fund, a new series of video tutorials that are online. You can catch them at safeisfast.com, and SAFE is an acronym for Skilled, Assured, Fit and Empowered. And it's a great program the FIA and the RNC have put together. Bill Oberlin is part of one of the tutorials that talks about overtaking, and that I think was a perfect example of what Will was talking about. Now he will put the hammer down for the next couple of laps to make sure that Tom Milner does not put himself back into contention to get that lead back. But Bill Oberlin here, he's really on a charge. I mean, he's one of the veteran drivers in this series, massive amount of experience, and much of it in BMWs, having started his career actually in Porsches. But he's a great character, Bill. And I think, again, you know, if you're an aspiring race car driver, go online and have a look at that. Safeisfast.com, and there's a lot of great information.
And the FIA president, Jean Todt, talking earlier on to us, talking about the massive amount of work that the FIA does outside of motorsport with road safety worldwide. and using the kind of pressure that it can put on very famous people like Michael Schumacher, like Sebastian Vettel and others to be involved in that. Let's go back to the 48 in 8th position in GT.
You're loving his paint job, aren't you?
Yeah, there's not enough red on that. Yeah, he's a Newcastle United supporter.
If you watch this, if you watch this shot here, you'll actually start to see the sun as we get further in the next hour or so, getting more and more into his eyes. So he's got his dark visor on for putting down. When you're in a closed car, you can run the dark visor, adjust it as you need to. In the open car, I find myself using clear visor sometimes with a bigger tear off, and actually using my hand to protect it and keep the sun out of my eyes.
Rob Bell, 8th position.
It's been a big change for the Paul Miller Racing team to switch to those Dunlop tires, because now they've got that new Porsche RSR, and they say it's basically the only one in the world running with Dunlops. So they didn't have any information or any data to take from any other teams around the world. They told me they had pretty low expectations coming into this, and they really just hope to leave the 12 hours of Sebring with a lot more data and information to build on throughout the season. When I asked them to put a number on it, they said they think they can get about 30% more out of this car, but still, they're running pretty clean and kept themselves in this race.
So he comes back onto the back straight, and he has the sun in his eyes.
It's not quite as low as it's going to get yet, but it really starts to be a problem. And their next stop, they'll definitely, the cars that have windscreens will take a tear off so that they have the clearest view that they can have.
And the 34 having to take slightly evasive action there. That was actually somebody looking in their mirrors pretty well. And there's the battle in GT. That's Bertolini, who's caught up, I think, with the leading pair as we were looking down from the Porsche aerial cam. That was all getting a bit unnecessary as well.
Didn't he close in there on the brakes?
Well, he slightly outbraked himself a couple of times earlier on in the race when he was leading the category. Didn't cover himself in glory, but all of a sudden he's back on full charging mode. Watching there the 61, that's the wall trip car.
We've still got less than 10 seconds covering the top 6 in the GT class, which is not bad after 7 hours and 8 minutes of racing, is it?
It's going to get closer before it gets further apart.
Oh no, that's right, because Dirk Mueller, he's only about another 6 or 7 seconds back as well.
Great battle in P2 at the moment. Olivier Pla and João Barbosa. Just about a second apart for the P2 lead at the moment, in 8th and 9th overall. And that's, I have to say, that's been a pleasant surprise for me, Jeremy. Not just the pace, but also the reliability of the P2 cars. There's the Paul Miller car in the pit lane. That was Rob Bell just a moment ago. And out they go. Yeah, not just the pace, but the reliability of the P2 cars. We've seen them being fast, but sometimes rather fragile.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, before they brought in the new rules, they were hopelessly unreliable, weren't they? It seemed to me. And last year, with the new rules,
we had that time when they were super quick and right on the pace at the front of the field, particularly in the ALMS.
Yes,
and then there was a change, the rules. They got very unreliable, and now I think they've found the middle ground.
Yeah, they do, and I really like this new package. I mean, I gather it's a lot more affordable than it used to be, and these engines now, as you say, they're getting more closely matched now too. There's various different options you can run and have a chance of being competitive.
Yeah, I think obviously I did a lot of development work for HPD with the power plant with Honda, with the P2 power plant, and it's a production engine, so it's obviously you're developing a production engine. It's not an easy thing to make into a race engine, but they're definitely getting that reliability now.
Talk about affordability in a moment, but that's the leader in the pit lane. Just a change of drinks bottle there for Alan McNish, and even that drinks bottle system is bespoke.
You read my mind. Yeah, it's a beautifully made piece of kit.
It was H, wasn't it? Who came up with it?
It's Progressive in the UK that make the drink system, and it's a work of art in itself. I mean, inside it, it's all medical grade, this and that, and the way it releases and engages. It's a nice piece that they've got there.
So basically, you just plug the canister, the drinks canister, into its own holder, and everything else is taken care of.
Absolutely, and you can release it. When you release it, it's just a push button release as well.
And it's like a dry brake.
Absolutely, and so you don't have a straw inside to go wrong. It's the pump on the wheel. It's just very, very nicely done.
It's the details, isn't it, that make the difference in this sort of racing, Marino?
Absolutely, especially at this level, when every little second counts, and especially when you're in a closed car, you need everything working well.
Well, and I was going to say, if you're going to spend 3.5 hours in a hot, closed car, the last thing you want is a drinks bottle that doesn't work.
No, absolutely. It reminds me of my 2005 days with the panos and drinks systems that didn't work.
Well, we saw Rob Bell earlier on give himself a squirt in the face instead of getting anything out when he pushed the wheel. This is the 016. Chris Dyson in the pit lane from 7th in P1, second in the ALMS prototype category at the moment, and this is all going so far according to plan for these guys. This is a brand new car to them.
Isn't it good to see that paint job back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The classic Dyson colours. Richter Brewer's down there.
In fact, they are actually treating this as a test. Earlier today, they brought the car in, took a piece of bodywork off in the rear just so they could look in the engine compartment to see if there were any issues, make sure everything was fine. They realize they're not running for the win today, so what they're doing is treating this as a very long endurance test so they can learn as much as they can. The first stint when they came in and changed tires, they didn't need new tires, but they wanted to see how the tires were wearing. So for them, it's a 12-hour test.
And just behind them, João Barbosa in the 055 has just come in, and they were 6th and 7th, 7th and 8th, excuse me, overall.
And João Barbosa leading the class in the 055 in P2. So I think we've seen both of the leaders in P2 make a pit stop just within the last few minutes.
Look how busy the eyes were there from Guy as he was coming out. And there is the 055 who followed them out. And I think it's Christophe Bouchou, in fact, that's got into that car. I saw a flash of Christophe's helmet in the left-hand mirror there.
New overall race leader with Romain Dumas having taken over after that pit stop. He just snuck ahead of Alan McNish.
Oh, you're right, you do, just by the odd second or two, about 5 seconds between them at the moment.
So what happened, let's not forget what happened to this car yesterday with the incident in the qualifying session, wasn't it? We had a huge off in turn 1, quite a lot of damage to this car, and there was a lot of conjecture as to whether or not they had enough parts to get it ready for the race. Well, yes, they did have enough parts to get it ready for the race, but they are very low on spares, and there's various different components on the car, including particularly the rear deck, the bonnet, the cover on the engine cover. They don't have another spare of those, and there's various suspension components as well that they don't have any spares for.
They're not alone in that, Jeremy,
No,
and not just in the HPD camp either. There's so many new cars here this year that people have got late, where they just haven't been able to assemble a full season spares package yet. It's been really done a cracking job to get cars on the track, never mind keep them running. And the guys pulled an all-nighter to actually get the car back together again.
Well, they have a donor car now since their sister car is out. Whatever parts they have left in one piece from that, they'll be able to use if they need.
Let's take you back 24 hours actually and have a look to see what happened on board with Christophe Bouchou. Marino?
Yeah, he just clips the inside wall. Obviously, he sees the car out of the corner of his eyes coming onto the track, and he's probably thinking more about that than the apex. And it's always important to get your line right at one, but having just done a few laps, it seems even more important this year. You have to be really precise.
Oh no! Left rear wheel is missing on that Aston Martin at their hairpin. That was the fourth place car of Darren Turner, and it is stationary. What a disaster for what had been a good run being put together for Aston Martin Racing. The safety car has been deployed, 4th place in GT. The left rear has gone completely. It was clear from that other shot now.
It looks like the hub's still there.
I was going to say the hub's still there, yeah.
There's no damage behind it.
Well, he hasn't just pitted, has he?
I don't think so.
Darren, that's BA is our cameraman down there. He's got years of experience, and he's had a bit of action down there to deal with, and I think he had to dodge a bouncing tyre. Let's have a look in the distance here.
Yeah, they did.
There's the car. Here's the. Yeah. Photographers don't move, and BA just makes sure that he gets it right in the middle of the lens. That is professionalism. And
That is unbelievable,
that is
energy that those wheels have.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a road over there.
That is out of the ballpark. That's a ground rail double there, isn't it? I think in the baseball parlance.
Out of here, yeah.
So and it's that's going to have to pay to get back in, that wheel. Somebody's going to make a nice table out of that.
That's just heartbreaking for the Aston guys, though, because they were having
What
such a fantastic run.
That was a tremendous performance by that team. They've been flying underneath the radar all week, all the way through practice. They didn't show their full hand, I believe, and either that or they made a big change yesterday in qualifying and suddenly found something. But you know, they've been absolutely superb in this race. That car has been really fast, very, very competitive lap times, and it's not by any fluke that's got that car up and among the top 4. It's been absolutely dicing for position all the way through this race.
It's had real pace, real pace.
Yeah, that's going to be a super contender this season now, no question about that.
Well, there'll be a few people. You drove a previous iteration of that car, Marino. We'll talk to you about that in a moment after we've checked in with Jamie Howe in the pit lane.
I'm down in the 97 pit box, and the team is deep in conversation about what possibly could have gone wrong to cause that wheel to go flying. But you mentioned the coffee table aspect. Remember, these are Michelin, and this is a customer team. It is a partner of Michelin, so there will be a Michelin engineer that has to go down there and find that tire. And if a fan has found it first, guess what? They are not going home with it, because Michelin will not let that technology leave the racetrack.
Okay, you can have the wheel, but you can't have the rubber that goes.
I think it's left the racetrack, actually.
I'm afraid that's left that wheel and tyre combo has left the. It's been returned, so it is sitting on the end of the wall. Well done. So a Michelin technician will be claiming that back. The tyre seems to. There's no suggestion that there was any problem with the tyre there. The fixing to the hub seems to have come awry. I have seen, very rarely, but I have seen wheel centres pull out sometimes, and you tend to see you've still got the wheel nut in, but that looked like the hub was bare. Great to see the old hairpin. Lots of change of real estate here at Sebring down the years.
Didn't that change when a car did exactly the same thing as that wheel and made it outside of the confines of the track?
Yes, and that was a very sensible thing to do. It's bad enough when a tyre goes running along, but when a 1,000-kilo car, and there is the road we were talking about. So just remind ourselves, in fact, of just how things have changed here at Sebring. Several different iterations of what's gone on. We've come down to just 3 3/4 miles now, and the change to turn 1, of course, the latest, doesn't really affect the distance of the circuit. But back in the day, 5 1/4 miles around, Jeremy.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of legendary stories about people taking shortcuts in the early days because they used some of the runways and taxiways here.
I think,
and it was quite easy apparently to lop off a whole chunk of the track, and at night time a lot of people you'd never know.
And to answer the question that we were all asking, it was 1998 that hairpin was changed.
Well, Phil Hill told me a great story years ago of being out there, and I think it was a Cobra or something, and it was foggy and having the biggest off, just spinning for ages and ages and ages. When he came to rest, he was between a couple of planes, and he couldn't see anything. He had no idea where the track was, so he kind of had to switch the engine off, listen for engines and which direction they were going, and then creep along and find his way back to the track.
Yeah, wait till a couple of sets of lights had gone by.
Exactly.
And make sure you're going in the right direction.
Exactly. It was unbelievable.
Yes. And we look at what we do now. I had the great privilege to speak to 3 guys yesterday who were the original, 3 of the original drivers from Sebring in '52, and I believe that that's going to be made available on the ALMS.com website, and I urge you to go and watch it. 3 fantastic characters, and it was Gus Ehrman, Dick Irish and Otto Linton who I spoke to, and I urge you to go and have a look at that.
Dick Thompson wasn't there, wasn't he?
He didn't make the interview, unfortunately. He's a bit fragile now, and he decided to head off before the cocktail party started.
That's a shame, because of course he had in the Grand Sport Corvettes and things. You know, he was a huge name in that sort of period, and drove with Roger Penske. for quite a while.
So working another caution here for that tragic Aston Martin drop on the side of the circuit. Now, just as important as what goes on the track is what happens in the atmosphere off it as well, and we sent Justin Bell out into the crowd to find out.
This is the infield. It's the famous area at Sebring where people come to party. Do you know, back in 1977 or something, it was the fuel crisis, about 15,000 people still turned up to have a good time. I want to go and find out some of their famous Sebring stories. Take a look. Well, hello, everyone. Hi, you all right? Good, good, good. Very well, thank you. So we're a little concerned because all those professional drivers are risking life and limb 300 feet from you. Do you ever feel bad about that while you're drinking?
Absolutely not. We love it. It's Sebring. You got to do it.
What do you think when you watch those cars out on track? Does it impress you what man and machine can do now from what they did in the 60s?
No, it impressed me more in the 60s. Actually, it impressed me more in the 50s.
What do you think about the drivers? Are there any really good-looking drivers?
I don't know.
And what is it about Sebring that makes it such a special happening, an event, more than just a car race?
It's the crowd. It really is. It's the crowd. It's all walks of life come out for the Sebring races. It's awesome.
So while you're having a good time, Saturday night while the race is on, I'll be out there with Brian Till and Johnny O'Connell, one of your own boys. I expect to wave, because you do have the best seats in the house here at the 60th running of the Mobil 12 Hours. Brian, stand up.
Justin out there in Green Park in that area there, and 74 I think that the race didn't happen, but you know, there's no need to be accurate when you're talking to people who have imbibed a tad. 4 hours and 37 minutes still to go here. This one is by no means over, and it's Romain Dumas and Alan McNish just half a second apart behind the safety car. We'll take a short break from the action here, and Marino, Jeremy and I will be back. And we're going to bring you a little more of the history of Sebring that we've just been talking about. And this time we're looking at 1970 at this great racetrack.
The 1970 12 Hours of Sebring is considered as the greatest 12-hour classic ever. The dramatic ending featured a duel between Mario Andretti's Ferrari and the Porsche driven by Steve McQueen and Peter Revson. The entry was outstanding for the 1970 Sebring Classic, the first to use a rolling start instead of the traditional Le Mans start. The 68 cars in the starting grid included contenders such as the Porsche 917, Alfa Romeo T33, Ferrari 512S, Matra Simca, and a wide variety of GT cars, as the number 19 Ferrari, co-driven by Mario Andretti and Arturo Merzario, built an incredible 13-lap lead. The race was turned on its head, however, when they retired with transmission failure, which earned them the dubious honor of losing the largest lead in Sebring history. The Porsche 917, driven by Pedro Rodriguez and Leo Kanunen, inherited the lead, only to fall back after an extended pit stop. In the chaotic final hour, the number 48 Porsche 908, driven by Revson and McQueen, took the lead as the crowd looked on in disbelief. Meanwhile, Andretti had been reassigned to the number 21 Ferrari 512S that Nino Vaccarella and Ignazio Giunti had been driving. Andretti quickly took the lead back from Revson, but then had to pit for fuel. At the finish, the Revson-McQueen Porsche was only 24 seconds behind. Revson drove a majority of the race and was much faster than McQueen. McQueen deserves credit for his performance, however, especially considering he drove with a cast due to a broken foot.
This is the
excitement of the American Le Mans Series is back.
Great flag, and we're racing at Baltimore.
Where technology races into the future and no man is better than his machine. Failure is always a threat when pushing development to its very edge, but survival makes success that much sweeter. This is where technology, passion, and danger meet to create a spectacular orchestra. The American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron, where the technology of speed and danger is everything.
Looking down from the Porsche aerial camera to Alan McNish leading Sebring for 2012. And Marino Frankitti's off to my right here, sitting in between Jeremy and I. During these full course caution periods, what do you do as a driver? How do you keep your concentration?
Well, there's a lot going on, especially with a field this big. If you're far back in the queue, you've got to keep your wits about you, because of the concertina effect. If someone stops a little bit further up, very quickly it can turn into a big moment, so you've got to be ready to bail out left or right at any point. But you're just talking to the team, working through. I'd like to try and get an idea of the overall view of the race, of who I'm competing with, where they are in the queue. If we're trying to make fuel numbers, I'm obviously trying to save fuel. But it's just a nice time to get comfortable again, maybe adjust your belt slightly, and obviously it's always very difficult because you want to try and keep temp in the tyres, but to keep temp in the tyres you have to use fuel. You have to speed up, slow down. So it's a balancing act, like everything.
Does weaving backwards and forwards actually do any good?
I'm not a big fan of it personally.
Braking and accelerating better?
Braking and accelerating is good. I think you have to, in the corners you can put a certain amount of load in, but as it gets colder it becomes more and more difficult to build that temp. And at Sebring, as the temperature goes down, there's patches in certain places and different surfaces, and they lose heat at different rates. So you'll be going through, and you get to know this, but there'll be parts of the track where there's grip, and then you hit a freezing cold bit of concrete, and even when your tyres are hot, you feel that. So it's yeah, even under yellow, there's a lot going on. You don't have a chance to relax or to. You're concentrating the whole time.
Best tweet of the day has just come in from Falcon team. Brian Sellers reporting, no, everything's fine. I'm just stuck in traffic. Let's go down to the pit lane and BMW with Kelly Stavist.
Busy down here in pit lane. We see the 155 BMW came in first. They'll make a driver change, putting Uwe Olsen in. Just in front of him now is the 56, and Joey Hand is preparing to take over duties there for Dirk Mueller. Right behind them was the number 4 Corvette. It looked like they were also preparing to make a driver change, although I couldn't quite see who's setting to take in there for Tommy Milner. The 155 looks like they're done. They've got 4 new Dunlops. Uwe Olsen right behind the Flying Lizard, and now we're waiting on the 56. Joey Hand gets the fire back, and he's out of there.
See the second of the BMWs there with the what I call the shredder wheels. They look like they should be one of those wheels in a food processor. And I'm not certain what the difference is and what effect that has. Let's stay down in pit lane whilst we have a chance to pick up a couple of more reports. Jamie Howe has got some news for us. Jamie?
The leading of the Porsches, the number 77 from Felbermeyer came in. Richard Leeds got behind the wheel of that car, but when they came down pit lane, they were in 4th place. They were behind the number 71 from AF Corsa. AF Corsa has 4 cars out here this weekend. Their pit stall was very busy, and they had to push the 71 back, so they actually came out behind the 77, losing some time in pit lane. You just cannot afford to do that in a race like Sebring. But the 77, it was a clean stop, and it was also a quick stop.
Thank you, Jamie. When you're under yellow flag conditions, Marino, coming into the pits is even more stressful than it would be under green flag conditions because of that traffic.
Absolutely, especially this weekend. I cannot believe I've been in pit lane once, and it's not a nice place to be this weekend because it's so compact. There's so many people in there, even with the extended pit lane, that it's like organised chaos. It's unbelievable.
One of the real stars of this centre part of the race has been Bill Oberlin. He's put in a great stint in the number 155 BMW, leading the GT category as he handed it over. He's taken a well-earned rest, but not before he's talked to Kelly.
What a great stint there for Bill Oberlin. You made a couple great passes there to bring this 155 BMW into pit lane in the lead. Your team said you were in the zone. What was that stint like for you?
It was good. This is when the Dunlop tires are at their best. When the crew does exactly what they do. They put us to the front, then Dunlops keep us at the front. And like I always say, you follow that BMW rondelle on the hood, and it knows the way to victory lane here. So we're just trucking away. We're going to keep it safe for a while. When the darkness comes, hopefully we got something for the competition.
Sounded like you were having a lot of fun. The team said you gave sort of a whoop whoop every time you pass someone. Can we get an example of that?
It's going good, baby. We're moving up, you know. So we'll say, oh, you gotta have something for it. Anyways, these guys keep you alive. They keep you motivated. And what a great car to drive today.
It's always fun to be behind the winning car.
It is.
Thank you.
Bill Oberlin, absolute pro, and clearly still enjoying his motor racing. Why should he not when he's driving for Bobby Rahal and the BMW, the Crown Plaza BMW team? Now, coming back to the restart, and there's that concertina effect, as Marino was telling us about. This is the GRM HPT. They've had a great run. Jamie Howe is down in their pit.
They had been having a fantastic run. Unfortunately, with the time that yellow flag came out, though, they needed fuel, so they had to come in when the pits were closed, take the 5 seconds of fuel, and then pit once all the prototypes and the GT cars had cycled through for their full service. David Brabham is staying behind the wheel of the car, but they are losing precious track time because of it.
Brabham having 1 or 2 problems or trouble getting that GRM HPD out of the pit lane. Now, this is not a massive criticism, but I have to say I don't think that's the best colour scheme for that car. I don't think it shows it off to its best advantage. It's some cars are very, very sensitive to how they're coloured, and that is one of them. And I'm not sure that that works for it. Look, by the way, at how much aero work there is on just on the edge of the headlights with the little upright aerofoils there. That's a change from last year. You were talking about the aero effect. I had a good look around Stracker's car when I was at Snetterton, when that car was being rolled out, and the detail changes on it are small but clearly very, very important.
Yeah, and very effective as well, apparently.
Absolutely. I think also the chassis is different, and it's small changes on the chassis. I got to look around the level 5 car, obviously the same chassis with both cars, and small changes underneath, but obviously very effective because both HPDs and LMP1 and 2 are going pretty well.
Yeah. That stop there for David Brabham, as we heard, he made the splash when we went to yellow and then came in for well, not full service. I don't think he took on fresh tyres, did he? But that car's running well, and yeah, it cost him a bit of track position certainly, but he is still on the same lap with Klaus Graf now. So both Klaus Graf in car number 6 and car number 22 for David Brabham are 2 HPD cars, both still just 1 lap down to the race leader.
And still that great battle in P2 as well. Pierre Caffer now leading for PCOM, ahead of Christophe Bouchou in the 055 car, and barely a couple of seconds between them in the queue as they're behind the safety car.
And Jacques Nicolet is back behind the wheel of car number 24. He's still on the lead lap, as is Enzo Potolicchio in the Starworks car. So we've still got 4 cars on the lead lap in P2. It's a long time since we've been able to say that in an endurance race.
Well, this with only 4 hours, a mere 4 hours and 25 minutes yet to run. It's one of the things about endurance racing. You are in it for the long haul, literally. And I love the way these stories play out. And we still don't know where the critical point of the race either will be or has already been. And that's the great thing about watching long races. The safety car is about to turn right into the pit lane, and that will allow Alan McNish to plant his right foot hard into the bulkhead of the R18 TDI and head off towards turn number 1. He has achieved that admirably with his teammate Marcel Fessler now inside the top 2 pages of timing in 31st position. We have 16 cars on each of our timing screens here, so the 64 car field fits on 4 timing screens here. I doubt we'll have to use that many again this year, apart from possibly the Nürburgring 24 where there's 107. 220 cars start that, by the way, if you weren't aware. Now, nice and clean and clear at the front of the field, everybody behaving themselves, but as we cycle back from BA's camera down at the hairpin, we start to see the traffic jams and people who have pitted out of sequence or have lost track position are having to fight their way through this, and that can cost you 4, 5, 6 seconds depending on where you catch it, Marino.
Absolutely, it's very easy to lose either track position or just lose a lot of time in these restarts, and you've got to be so heads up, because if you look there at the Miller car, they're obviously looking forward, trying to race with the Felmermeyer car, but also they're under attack from P cars, so it's not easy at all. And then you've got the P2 car under attack from the LMP1 Audi.
Yeah,
you've really got to have your wits about you on these restarts.
And that's the second place car again. That's Romain Dumas, who is fighting his way through that complete nightmare of a traffic jam.
That's right, having made a pit stop during that caution period, so again lost track position to Alan McNish, who he just made a stop, hadn't he, just right before we went to caution. So again, that kind of played into Alan's favour. Just making that pit stop just before the yellow came out actually worked out in his favour.
Just having a look back there, I think I caught a sight of one of the Rebellion cars as well, as we're keeping an eye on Romain Dumas. Neil Yarney, even after that little fire in that car, the guy's doing a cracking job getting him turned round. That was the 4-minute pit stop. Now, Alan McNish leads by 17.7 seconds. And there he is, the car behind is not challenging for second position. We were talking about visibility early on. That's what McNish can see, going down to the hairpin. Well, actually, that's not what McNish can see, because the camera is way far forwards. To find out a little more about what the visibility is like in an R18, let's go down to Jamie Howe.
Talking with the drivers, from the time that this R18 was developed to now, the visibility has not gotten much better. What it's like is that they're driving with blinders. So what we've done is we have taken just this cardboard box, and you can see as the camera backs out, it looks like you can see just fine. But as objects get further away, their sight window actually gets smaller, and it's the way that the car is designed. They can't see anything that's at the front right of the car, and it's because the wheel arches are so big and the A-pillar is right in the middle of their sight line, so it is very, very difficult for these Audi drivers to see anything around them.
Now, where we started that camera position was about where that camera is, much further forward in the bore of the windscreen. And as the camera pulled back is about where Alan's head is. Oh, and dear me, that is the 025, the Dempsey racing car, and the front wheels are at a very odd angle.
Toe in, you call that?
Yeah, that's going to bring out a full course caution. Is that down at BA again? No, it's not. It's over the other side of the circuit, and look at the debris field that it's brought out. Now that's very bad news indeed, because that car was going so well earlier on.
It's Henri Richard there.
Normally a safe pair of hands. Look in the background, he gets tagged. Oh my goodness me, almost gets airborne, and the car comes down, and that is the 18 car, yeah, absolutely.
He didn't seem to be aware of the red PC car there on his left side, and he tried to change position and yeah, got turned round.
That's the Performance Tech Motorsports car that was there.
Yeah, both of those two cars have been delayed for various reasons within the last few hours of the race, and boy, that's a big impact there for Henri Richard. Good to see him there hopping around and walking around. He's absolutely fine, but boy, that was a scary moment.
Let's have a look at this again with Marino Franchitti sitting alongside us, watching the right side of the screen.
Yeah. So I think Henri's just unaware that the other car's there. So he's looking around on the car in front, tries to move to the left to take the line for the corner, but is the red car's there. So that could be this could be quite a long yellow if they have to repair the wall there.
Paulie McCauley on the camera, not flinching for a moment. There he is on the platform. He's somewhat exposed, in fairness there, and he's done a pretty good job to stay on that. But that's why we get such great shots, and good opportunity to say thanks to all of our camera guys and girls around the circuit, out in the weather, out in the sunshine, and bringing you the phenomenal coverage that we've had already from Sebring here in 2012. Love working with you. Now, also trouble for the 57 car, I'm hearing. Just a couple of moments ago, under the caution, and there's Henri just explaining what was going on. Look right in the back of this shot for something green, and there it goes. Now, did he get pushed but he's into the right-hand wall, coming out of Le Mans corner onto the Ulman straight, the back straight.
It's hard to tell from this angle, but almost looked like what we were talking about earlier when you have such a long line. It's like being on the freeway and everyone gets on the brakes and there's that concertina effect. It almost looked like he was trying to avoid running into the back of someone there, but hard to tell from so far away.
Shame that car had been running super well early in the race. It led the class for quite a long way. Tracy Crone now, he's had a couple of incidents, not a lot of fun for Tracy, but the car's certainly been fast, but that looked like a pretty heavy impact with the right front of the car.
Yeah, let's hope they can get that back. A World Championship is up for grabs for GTE AM, and Tracy Crone choosing the WEC because of that option. I'm hearing it may have been a tyre going down. Got another angle on this, and thanks again to the guys in tape. Watch for the green car. There it is, and no, he's just dozing, I think, there. And the PC car just breaking up, and let's have a look at it in real time. Marino, again, looking at it from this angle, a bit difficult to see.
I mean, you can see everyone spreading out because they're stopping, and he just gets caught out by that.
He's going awfully fast, but he's his stage right, isn't he?
That's exactly what we were talking about earlier on. The good news is he's got the car coming back. It doesn't look to be sitting down at the left rear, in fairness.
It's crabbing quite badly.
That may have been effect rather than cause, going behind the wall.
Yeah.
And it is Tracy Crone who's at the wheel of that.
Yeah, it's a shame for those guys. They've worked hard. They've done a really nice job. They've all driven the car pretty nicely during this race. They had a couple of problems early on which dropped them back out of contention for the lead, but it certainly has been a good strong run for Crone Racing. And brand new car. That was a 458. Well, it's a brand new car to last year's specification.
Correct.
That's the rules in the GTE amateur class. You have to run last year's spec, but it is a new Ferrari F458. Last year, the only car that was eligible from Ferrari for that class was the older 430, but now the 458 is eligible because it was introduced last year.
Now, any takers for the pit stops now? It doesn't seem like 5 minutes since we had the previous ones. We're over 200 laps, by the way, 209.
This has certainly allowed Romain Dumas in car number 3 to get farther toward the front of the pack now to sort of minimise the damage from the last couple of caution periods where he's had to go to the back of the pack relative to the overall race leader, Alain McNish, car number 2.
What is it? They're trying to get the car into neutral so they can tow it because it's still in gear. Yeah, not easy when the wheels aren't moving. So
the engine was all shut down. One thing that Henri did was he shut everything down. He shut all the masters down when he got out of the car. That was one of the things that he was doing. So head down to the pit lane. Duncan Endy is down with Taro.
Hi, I'm with Duncan Endy, car number 25 from Dempsey Racing. What happened out there?
Looked like Henri was trying to go up the inside of one of the other PC cars. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it was a red car. Didn't get a great look at the replay. It looked like either Henri tried to cut across and wasn't clear, or the other car moved out on him, but either way, he turned himself into the outside wall pretty hard, got a little air under him, didn't go over.
How's the damage of the car, though? What's the situation right now?
We think it's probably terminal for the car for today. Henri's fine. He got out under his own power, but it was a pretty big hit. He's going pretty fast right there, so I think we're going to pack up.
So Long Beach will be the next race for these guys.
Yeah, it was Nick Alozzi in the 18 car, we could say that. And
he seemed to be minding his own business. Anthony Nicolosi did nothing wrong, that's for sure.
One more time, let's take another look at it, and you can see that the fence line's been pushed back a little bit there. There it is, yeah. I don't think Anthony Nicolosi can be blamed anything like that. The catch fencing doing its job, and the car coming back down onto all four wheels, which is what we like to see. Nicolosi actually did a pretty good job of keeping his car from joining the accident, and I haven't seen that car into the pit yet, so he's continued round, so clearly not damaged enough to warrant any kind of call in pit lane. You can see the triple layer arm core there right in front of us, that grey area just to the right of the tree that follows all the way down. That's the triple layer arm core, and then beyond that the catch fencing that you can see right here from Paulie's camera. And again, someone else that we haven't mentioned during this race, but we'll do whilst we have a quiet moment, all of our corner workers and safety workers. We love them to have the quietest day ever when we go racing. It hasn't been a mad one, but they've been kept relatively busy through this one. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving up your time. We couldn't go motor racing in the world, and wherever you are in the world, if you have some time in your hands and you consider yourself a fan, volunteering to be a marshal or a corner worker is by no means the worst thing that you can do. There's never enough of them, and as I say, we can't go motor racing without them. Nobody's moving yet. 4 hours and a quarter still to run. The pit lane is open. There are some of our hard-working corner workers that I was mentioning just a few moments ago. Do you get a good view of the race? Yes, you do. Do you get to enjoy it sometimes? Do you get any thanks? Not very often, but come on. You know that those guys are just absolute stalwarts. And they always come away with a smile on their face. Great stories to tell. And we probably still don't say it enough, but they are completely appreciated, Marino.
No, absolutely. I had a few tweets before the race to say when we were running the Delta Wing to give a few waves. So made sure when we were out there this morning that we were waving and saying thank you to the corner workers, because we do appreciate them very much.
And here's the 18, Anthony Nicolosi, coming in. I should say there's some internationals here as well, including Al Green, who we know, who's marshalling at turn number 1, and Kelly is down in the 18 pit.
Well, you see Anthony Nicolosi getting out of the number 18 as the crew sort of has a look around to assess the damage to this PC car, and it looked like Ricardo Vera. I see him suited up as though he might take over driving duties when and if they get this car back out. Funny thing is, I came over to ask the team what was going on. They said no, it wasn't even our car. So perhaps a little bit of confusion over here. They thought it was Bruno Junqueira in the RSR car that was involved. So I'll check in with them again. As I said, looks like Ricardo Vera is going to get behind the wheel, though, and we'll see what the final word here is from the 18.
If it wasn't them, they are certainly taking a lot of dirt and muck and rubbish out the bottom of that car. I should mention as well, by the way, that whilst all that was going on, the 97 Aston Martin is back out on the track. And Darren Turner is in 10th position, 35th overall. And let's have a... No, that is the 18 car. Now, this is a slightly different angle than we've seen before. And Henri's looking at the car ahead of him and not looking at Nicolosi's car.
No, but there's a slight kink there to the left, which you can't really see from this angle. But as they're heading there, you can see it around there. And the number 18 car, Anthony Nicolosi, he was behind Richard as it turned into that kink there. But then I think Richard was held up a little bit by, I think it was one of the core auto sports in front of him on the right-hand side of the track. So probably had to lift off just a little bit, and that allowed Nicolosi to get to make the overlap, if you like. So I think that would explain why Richard moved across the left. He didn't realise there was another car there, because when he turned into the kink, there was no car alongside him.
Anthony Nicolosi is fine, and his car is rejoining. He's got out. Let's hear what he's got to say from the driver's eye view with Kelly.
And hopefully Anthony Nicolosi can clear up some of the confusion here. What exactly happened out there?
Yeah, well, we on that restart, we were basically battling it out, but I was behind the two, so when we went out of the hairpin, they went to the left, so I went to the right, then they went back to the right. I guess the core car was blocking the molecule car, and then since they were both going inside, I went outside, and the molecule car came over on me. I was trying not to hit him, but he touched me, he spun and went off, and I just collected it up and kept going. So he came into me. Sorry about it, but I did everything I could do.
Other than a big pile of dirt there in the cockpit, it didn't look like there was too much damage.
No, just a little scrub on the right front. We got a couple of noses. I'm sure it's fine. They checked it out. If he went out, it's all good to go.
All right. Thank you so much, Anthony, for clearing that up.
You got it, Kelly. Thank you.
And I think, as you saw there, that was a pretty accurate description.
Absolutely right, yeah. One of them racing deals, I guess, Marino.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're trying, especially in a one-make championship, you're trying to get the advantage, so he would want to stay on the outside to compromise the other car's entry into the corner and try and get him on the exit. So
it wasn't really a battle. It wasn't as if it was a battle for position. So, but again, you're always going to be competitive. You want to go do the best of your job. If there's an opportunity to pass someone, you're going to try and look to make it.
Absolutely.
Just to, again, to remind you, that's
a mess.
Really feel bad for the Dempsey guys because they were having a quite challenging week, but we're doing a fantastic job in their first run out in the PC class.
Just to reiterate, the car that caused the original yellow flag that we were coming back off when we had that accident, the 97 Aston, Darren Turner back out with, what, 192 laps completed. So he's 7 laps away from the leaders. So that was 7 laps that lost wheel cost him.
Yeah, great job that they've got the car back out there. Interesting to look at the aerial view here. You can see there's lines in the track where there's more rubber. That's the bumps, and basically there's parts of the corner there in 17 where you're not actually on the ground, and you can see it very well from the air there. You can see where the car takes off and lands again. So certainly a roller coaster ride out there for the drivers.
And there is the 97. Now, we were going to ask you earlier on, you drove an earlier iteration of this car. That looks a lot different, a lot more aero around the front. The road car actually has just been re-released with a different body kit as well. But that is it seems to be a very different beast, and they've unlocked some performance there.
Oh, absolutely. They're doing a fantastic job with the car. They definitely, it wasn't as competitive, well, certainly wasn't competitive when I was driving it at Le Mans with the racing guys, unfortunately. Great car mechanically and everything else, but it just had such a large frontal area that on the Mulsanne you would just hit terminal velocity and that was it. So it looks like they've made huge strides with it, and very exciting to see them in the World Championship with a GT car. I think it's good to see them going up against all the other sports car marks.
As a base car, of course, the Vantage V8 is at the beginning, the bottom end of the Aston range, but it's already dry sumped. It's already got the engine quite low down and right over the front axle. It's already got the steering rack right well forward as well. So basically it's not a bad starting point, to be honest.
No, absolutely. But I have to say, when you look at the GT class, none of these cars are bad starting points, are they?
Well,
got a good point.
Can't argue.
Great looking car too, isn't it? Though?
Can't argue with any of that. And great to have the Aston Mark back into the World Championship. They were so much a part of it in the 1950s and 1960s, including here, of course, in '59. I've got some smashing photographs of the '59 team lining up on the runway. Well, whilst we're talking history, let's move forward a little bit and up to 1980 as we remember some of the Sebring's past.
The best field of cars and drivers in nearly 10 years was on hand in 1980 at Sebring. Although Porsche was again an overwhelming favorite, a variety of cars made for some interesting competition. The largest field since 1955 started before another impressive crowd, and John Fitzpatrick set a new track record, winning the pole in a Barber Racing Porsche 935 K3. The early stages of the race featured a battle between the Fitzpatrick Barber Porsche and the Bayside Racing Porsche 935 of Peter Gregg, Hurley Haywood, and Bruce Levin. The Barber Porsche led most of the first 3 hours, then the Bayside Porsche took the lead, which it held until lap 145 when transmission problems surfaced. Fitzpatrick and Barber would go on to win with a 3-lap margin over the rest of the competition.
Usually when a car maker turns one of its models into a race car, they have to add power. But when Chevrolet wanted to race the 638 horsepower Corvette ZR1 against Porsche, Ferrari, and BMW, we were asked to dial it back. Oh, about 168 horsepower. You know, just to be fair.
Doc? Doc? Goose!
Our technology builds some of the best tires in the world, because when it comes to performance, we don't just play around.
Cheater, we said no 360s.
Who's up for some leapfrog?
When it comes to fun family getaways, it's got to be Holiday Inn Club Vacations. Room to be yourself.
The American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron. The fusion of man, mind, and machine in the ultimate test, where the fight for first is around every corner and the sole focus of every driver. It's 100% adrenaline because the battle for the win is everything. And there's only one place in North America to see the thrills of Le Mans. It's the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. Coming at you on ABC, ESPN 2, and ESPN 3.
Well, how about this for a competition? The American Le Mans Series and Chevrolet Corvette have once again teamed up to provide the sports car fans' dream competition. With a grand prize of a 2013 Chevrolet 427 Corvette convertible 60th anniversary special edition and an all expenses paid VIP insider trip to the 24 hours of Le Mans. If you'd like to enter, go to www.racetowincorvette.com for your chance to win this ultimate sports car fans' dream prize. Maybe there with Jan Magnussen and the rest of the team. www.racetowincorvette.com and you could be a winner. Well, Marino Franchitti and Jeremy Shaw with me in the booth. Hello there, I'm John Hindhaugh. If you're just joining us, well, first of all, where have you been? Because you've been missing some great driving. Perfect example there of Jan turning onto the back straight and having to drop his visor, Marino.
No, absolutely. I mean, when I'm in the open cars like last year in the HPD car, etc., as I say, RI have actually developed a tear-off that changes with the light.
Clever, like
sunglasses.
photosensitive.
Photosensitive, exactly. But it's still working on that. It's not perfected yet. So normally I have just extra tape on my tear-off, the first tear-off, so that I can get through the sun part. And it's something that I spotted McNish doing years ago. I just put my hand out as I go down the back straight as I'm shifting up. I've got my right hand shifting up, my left hand just shading my eyes like a shade. So it's what you have to do. But in a GT,
fighter pilots used to do, mate, years ago.
Absolutely. And in the GT cars and the closed cockpit LMP cars, it's easier. You just either put tape on the visor or you have a dark visor, and you can move it, as you saw Jan doing there, as you need to. Because it's going into 17 and into the hairpin at this time of night is just unbelievable, especially as the windscreen's already been through 8 hours of punishment.
There you go. That's what it looks like.
Exhibit A, yes.
How do you gauge your braking points on things like that? I mean, are you still looking for the same things, or do they change as the light fades?
I'm very lucky into 17 that in the LMP car you kind of wait end of the wall, start braking, so you can judge it quite well. And it's not, the sun actually goes down quite quickly, so it's not too bad.
Let's go down to the pit lane. The GRM car is in there. Kelly is down with Lucas Lowe.
And this number 6 Muscle Milk HPD car has led most of the petrol cars for a good chunk of the day. Lucas Lowe, what are your first thoughts and impressions of this new HPD now that you've had some time behind the wheel of it here at Sebring?
I mean, we've been running quite okay. We kind of, thought that or hoped that we could get a little bit closer with the Audis, but it's very hard in the traffic, especially in the early stints. Now we are missing some cars, so it's getting a little better, but no, we are happy so far with the car. It runs very well and well behaved, so we tried a few things, change tire pressures and stuff like this. And no, we are happy, it's going good. Klaus is still in the car and I'll be up next and going into the nighttime.
Would there be any reason for you guys to try something tricky to gain an advantage on the diesels, or will you be satisfied as a team if in fact they finish ahead of you?
Well, you're never really satisfied if you don't win. In fact, just before you came, I was talking to our engineer, and we have something, maybe we can tease them a little bit. Maybe we should try it. It's a discussion been going on if we should try it or not, but I'm up for it. Why not?
All right, well, we look forward to seeing if you guys employ any sneaky moves. Thank you so much, Lucas.
Thank you, and happy birthday, Hunter.
Inside the last 4 hours of the race, so 2/3 of the race down. It's interesting. I mean, they've got good points for the championship, for the ALMS championship, Jeremy, and that can't be overstated at this point.
No, that's right. They've got a 5-lap advantage over Guy Smith and co, the Dyson Racing 016 car. So they are the first and second in P1 in the American Le Mans Series. But what's interesting to me is that the number 22 car, the JRM HPD, they elected to come in and make a pit stop then, which I think is an interesting idea. Peter Dumbreck has taken over from David Brabham, but that means now that if there's another caution period just a little bit down the road, they can conceivably get themselves back on the lead lap, because I think everybody else ahead of them is going to have to come into the pits. So I'm a little bit surprised that maybe they didn't bring the Muscle Milk car in for the same kind of reason. Maybe that might give them an opportunity to get back onto the lead lap overall if and when the Audis next make their visits to pit lane.
Maybe that tells you what they're thinking about, rather than, I mean, I'm sure they'd love to stand on the overall podium.
You bet. Particularly they've got a car that's clearly, you know, arguably perhaps fast enough. I mean, both Pagenaud and Klaus Graf have turned laps within a few tenths of a second of the Audis. Now, are the Audis stretched? No, probably not. But still, you know, they are very much still, I think, in contention.
In terms of the championship, the ALMS championship, Long Beach the next round of that, of course, the shoe is rather on the other foot from last year, when Muscle Milk had a nightmare here and didn't score any points. Well, they've got the upper hand now. The difference being, Marino, is the 16 car at the moment is still getting second place points. Let's quickly remind you, whilst we have a moment, of where we're going on our magical mystery tour of American Le Mans Series racing for 2013, live on ESPN 2 and ESPN 3 here in the United States. And look at that schedule. Lime Rock, Mosport and Mid-Ohio also live on ESPN and ABC. Long Beach next, Marino. Very different challenge to what we've seen here.
No, absolutely. It's going to be very, very interesting for all these guys, especially with the new cars going back to Long Beach. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for them.
And Mazda Raceway much earlier in the year in Monterey gives us an opportunity to go to the West Coast, but another fantastic racing circuit.
Yeah, I love going to Laguna Seca. As you know, we've juked it out on the simulator on that one a few times.
Yes, we have. It's one of our favourites. Let's head back to the pit lane for one of the stars of the first two-thirds of this race. Tommy Milner is taking a well-earned breather with Kelly down in the pit lane.
Tommy Milner had some great battles out there when he was wheeling the number 4 Corvette. Tell me about that last stint. You said there were moments of chaos out there.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the racing's been, I mean, as you can see on TV, I'm sure it's a lot of close moments here and there, but I had a nice sort of, the last little 3/4 of my stint was pretty trouble-free, so to speak. And, you know, our Corvette racing Corvette's been phenomenal so far. It's a lot of fun to drive. The guys have worked so hard in the offseason to get us this new car, and it's paid off so far.
It seems like throughout the week you guys have been sort of up and down in the timesheets compared to some of the other GT cars. Why do you think suddenly, sort of midway through this race, you guys are really coming on strong?
Just not making mistakes, and you know, all through practice, all we worked on was race pace, stuff like that. We weren't concerned about ultimate lap time. We were worried about how do our Michelin tires going to last, and how do we make them last as long as possible, and make them as quick as long as we can. So that was our main focus all through practice, and it's, you know, showing right now in the race that we have cars that are consistent, comfortable to drive for all of us drivers. So, you know, our Corvette's been absolutely, it's been a lot of fun to drive so far, and you know, just makes our life as drivers that much easier.
You're a driver that's been to and won Le Mans, one of the handful of Americans, but how does this event sort of compare now that you've got a lot of those same drivers out here?
Well, I mean, 60th anniversary of Sebring is obviously, it's a big race here in the U.S. It's one of the biggest sports car races in the U.S., if not the world. You know, it's cool for us to be here. Also, it's 60 years of Corvette, so lots of anniversaries going on, and you know, I mean, Sebring obviously is, you know, if you look back at I've seen some of the pictures from, you know, from the early races here, and it's amazing how far it's come, but it's also amazing how much it's similar, you know, with 17-1 being so bumpy as it always has been. So, you know, it's just it's an honor to be here with Corvette Racing, and you know, driving an American icon like the Corvette, and an American kid, you know, from Washington D.C. So I'm having a lot of fun right now. There's still a long way to go in the race, so I would really like to win this one, that's for sure.
A little extra special to win it on a year like this, as you said, with all the anniversaries.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Tommy.
Thanks.
Interesting, isn't it? You know, early in the week, it very much looked as though the World Endurance Championship cars would dominate the GT category. with not an American Le Mans Series car in the top 7 as we went into qualifying, and then a few changes around since then. But now we've got Corvette, BMW, all the top 3 ALMS cars. Danger certainly with the Felbermayr Porsche, Marino, because Lieb & Leitz and Felbermayr cannot be underestimated at all.
No, it's almost like they're still sizing each other up in GT.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be in the last couple of hours we really start to see them go for
like
it.
Heavyweights sort of just pottering around in the first 10 round of a 15-round contest.
Yeah, they all seem to. They're all being very after you, and when they're battling in traffic, and that's going to disappear really soon now. At Petit last year, I had front row seat for the last lap between Jörg Bergmeister and the BMW. I think it may have been Dirk Müller, and it's fantastic, and I've got no doubt that it's going to go down to the last lap, last corner, as always in GT here.
Ciocci in the 71AF Corsa in there as well, in 6th position, still on the lead lap. Still 6 GTs on the lead lap, but at this point in the race, with the sharp end of 4 hours still to go, I mean, what you're seeing there is this is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
It's only just beginning, I think.
When do you start? I mean, when do you start to push? When do you start thinking to yourself, what is it, the last couple of stints that you then have to say, right, we'll leave nothing on the table now? It all gets serious from here.
I have to say, I haven't been involved in one of those sort of GT battles. I've been involved in it in LMP a lot of times here, and in LMP when I've been racing here, every single corner has just been, you've fought for absolutely everything. So I can't really relate to a GT battle this close. You probably have to ask one of those guys.
But what they will be doing is back timing or back pit stopping from the end of the race right now and working out what they can do to maximise their pit strategy.
Absolutely. You don't want to finish the race with too much fuel in the car. You want to have the freshest tyres you can at the end, the right tyres for the right conditions, the right pressures. Are we going to have a lot of yellows? Are you going to want tyres that the tyres pressures to be higher and come up to temperature quicker? Do you want it for the long run? I mean, there's a lot of, it's like a game of chess behind the scenes, which is why guys like Thomas Blam, who does the strategy down at Flying Lizard, that's why these guys are so sought after, because it makes the difference when you get down to the nitty-gritty at the end of a race.
Yeah, there's a lot of permutations out there, lots of possibilities, and it's a question of narrowing down those possibilities to making the right choice.
Safety car lights are out, I believe. It's a little difficult to see in the sunshine, even from our cameras, so God knows what the drivers are looking at. And look at all of the pickup that is still out on the circuit.
But if you look, you can see the driver's eyes now when we get these front views. You can see right into the cockpit and everything that's going on, which means they can't see anything.
Yes, they're staring into a spotlight, effectively. The guys in the Audi are a long way back, and they have got a very deep shade band on that car. May give them a slight advantage. Well, here they come out of the sunset with Alan McNish going back to green flag conditions on lap 216 here at Sebring, and we're racing again, and this time Romain Dumas is so much closer. Remember, he was 45 seconds back a couple of yellow flags ago. Now it's just 3.6 for the second place Audi, and they've still only just got a lap on Klaus Graf, and Peter Dumbrecht's a further lap back. Jeremy.
Yeah, it is, and no, I think Dumbrecht's still on the same lap. He's on the same lap as Klaus Graf. He just made a pit stop during that caution, so he's well toward the back of the pack in terms of track position. But those cars are still on the lead lap. On the same lap, I should say.
Yeah, 1 lap off the lead, in
fact.
Lap off the lead. The Dumas car there just smoking a little bit, these diesels, when they come back after the full course cautions, tend to just throw a little bit out the back. He's sitting in behind the 13 car, which lost all of that time early on. Now I'm hearing that the 48 Porsche is back in again. It doesn't seem like very long ago that we were talking, and why wouldn't they have pitted under the caution unless they were getting a lap back? And they were getting a lap back. I think that's what they were doing. Rob Bell back in that car, so they took the wave around.
They were
excuse me, that's Sasha back in the car. I saw the black and white and immediately saw Newcastle supporter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They were 2 laps down, and the scoring is still showing them as 2 laps down. So yeah, not too sure about that.
Well, they have decided to come in on the first lap of green, which is a little odd. And out he goes. Changing to Dunlop tyres on that car this year in the GT category for Paul Miller Racing. great to have Sasha back. I had a very brief chat with him this morning, and I have to say, as the Waltrip car has rotated again.
First time we've said that, is it?
Really, Agwash had a nightmare in that car early doors, didn't he, with the alternator problems. Did get a text earlier on that said that the alternator problems were in fact suffered by some of the Ferraris last year, and at least one of the teams changed their supplier. I've got it. No. Too much right foot there, Marino?
Yeah, right foot and cold tyres, I think, there, just at the restart. Since he was off the back there, I'm assuming that he's just made a stop and has come out on new tyres, and that would have caught him out. As I say, this time of the night, the track will start losing temperature, and patches like that, it's very easy to get it wrong.
And that is Michael Waltrip in the car.
4th place in GTE amateur class, and in that class it's still the number 50 car that leads. Pedro Lamy, yes, the same Pedro Lamy used to drive for Peugeot, is at the wheel of the number 50 car for Labra competition at the moment. And then Paolo Roberti in the Felbermar number 88 Porsche is on the same lap now, and within 10 seconds of Pedro Lamy.
And they're getting in, and they're well inside the top 10 of the GT category as a whole. They would be scored as 9th and 10th. So yes, they are amateur drivers in those cars, but don't for a moment think that
well, Paolo Roberti nor Pedro Lamy you classify as amateurs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Andy Lally, though, is closing on those two in the 044 car that had some problems earlier on.
It's good to see that car going, and
that turning.
That's just unbelievable, isn't it? That's sparkling. Like to have a crack at one of those, Marino?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try that one out as well, definitely.
You've actually
driven a lot of cars lately, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah. If you go back over the last 4 or 5 seasons, you've driven Porsche Spider, of course. You've driven various HPDs, Peugeot now as well. Nissan Delta Wing, obviously embarking on now. So you've driven a pretty wide gamut of cars. The 48 car coming in off kilter. Kelly Stavist is hustled down to the Paul Miller pit and can tell us what was the thinking behind that stop.
Well, I had to ask a couple of people before I got what I think is the answer, which is they were having a big debate on which tire compound they wanted to go with. They were on a really hard tire. They're sliding around a lot out there, so it was a big debate whether or not to bring the car in to switch tire compounds to a softer tire, which is in fact what they ultimately did. The timing, of course, wasn't ideal, but apparently there was a little bit of debate going on, and that caused sort of a delayed decision to bring the car in.
Well done, Kelly. Great information there. And that certainly makes sense. There's a logical explanation for what happened. I mean, they're 2 laps behind that whole battle that's going on for the lead in GT, so they're unlikely to catch them. So, hey, why not do a bit of a development? If they can learn something from running those softer tyres, absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
And also they want to understand when to switch the compounds and the temperature. They're used to a different tyre. I think it was a Yokohama they were on before. Now on the Dunlops, it's a different time of temperature that the switchover happens between compounds. So that's obviously something that they're trying out now for the first time.
And this is not the only ALMS race that runs into darkness, of course. You've got Petit Le Mans later in the year, and before that you've got a big temperature change normally at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as well, which is a longer race. There is Romain Dumas now. Oh my goodness me, he tries to go down the inside of Graf, and Graf's not having that at all. That is 2nd and 3rd, or should I say 3rd and 2nd, and he's trying to put a lap on him, which McNish obviously already has done, and it is 13 seconds up the road. Gets down the inside, nearly kissing the wall in front of the Audi hospitality unit. The difference in vision between the closed and the open cars is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's go check out some racing for, well, just lead position really, with 3 3/4 hours still to go. This is GT, and this is Richard Westbrook and Uwe Alton. Well, they know each other from Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah, and Uwe has already split the difference. We had the 2 Corvettes running 1st and 2nd at the restart, and the second car you can see just back at a few cars, and Uwe Alton now, he's on a charge here and trying to get on terms with that Corvette, but there's a couple of Le Mans prototype challenge cars also to contend with, and discretion, I think, the better part of valor.
That's Peter Dumbrek.
Yeah, that's
Peter Dumbrek.
It is, isn't it?
In the 22. That's the 4th place car. He's trying to chase down Klaus Graf. He's some 40 seconds in arrears. And did you see how much the BMW took out of him going through 3. Now he gets the hammer down. Good to see Dumbo back as well, Peter Dumbrek.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, people have seen him in a lot of GT cars, but obviously there's a huge amount of experience in single-seaters, prototypes. So it's good to see him back out in a prototype, and obviously having another Scot about the place is never a bad thing.
Oh, for you, right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, in fairness, he's a good lad, and he's been a miss from the paddocks. Implying his
translation book in the paddock these days.
Didn't get a word of that, did you?
What is it?
No,
that's it. Alan McNish has completed 220 laps and leads his teammate Romain Dumas by a steady 13.5 seconds. Romain just took a little bit out of McNish last time around, just about 0.4 of a second. But this is the battle on the circuit at the moment, the battle for the lead in GT. In fact, first, second, and a little further back, the third placed car is the second of the Corvettes. Richard Westbrook in the white BMW leads Uwe Alsen, Richard Westbrook in the yellow Corvette leads the white BMW of Uwe Alsen, the 155 car. And we've seen these cars down the back straight a couple of times, and there's very little to choose from them, Jeremy, in terms of the power. And look at this. Here comes Dirk Muller challenging Magnussen for third place. So BMW versus Corvette ×2.
That's absolutely right. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And if you look there in the blue car, also that is Richard Leitz in the Felbermeyer Porsche. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in GT all together as they come past start-finish line.
Uwe Alsen's never been known for his lack of aggression, so it's going to be very interesting.
No shrinking violet there, is it? He's got a winter home down. He spends quite a bit of time in Florida, Uwe Alsen, and there's a young Florida driver, Dennis Trebing, who he has kind of taken under his wing, and he's helping him race in Germany. Dennis Trebing is going to be doing the VW Scirocco Cup this year.
Look at this. Down towards the hairpin, sun in the eyes again, hit the brakes, down through the gearbox, and looked like he just slightly missed the apex there, Uwe Alsen.
Well, he was trying to be, let's say, big in Richard's mirrors and move about, and it caught him out because he changed his line, hit a bump that he normally doesn't hit, and it meant that he was right on the edge on braking anyway, and it just took him past the apex of the corner.
Well, you're always right on the edge on braking, aren't you? There's really nothing to give on these cars.
No, and when you deviate just that little bit on line there, this place, the bumps, you have to thread your way around them, and sometimes the fastest line round here is not what it would obviously be because you're dealing with the bumps.
And they unsettle the car that much?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you saw when you're on the limit of braking, he moved about a little bit. He also did his final downshift just on the bump. And that just takes a little bit of the efficiency out of the braking, and as you saw, he just slotted past the apex, which is not ideal, but it's not going to cost him much. He'll gain that back in traffic at some point.
Yeah, trying to get back with the leader, Uwe Alsen then, in the BMW, the Crown Plaza car, trying to get into that hole in the air that's being made, and look at the front of the field.
Tires. In prototypes alone, Michelin has...
Westbrook is trying to get a bit of a tour from the prototype as he went past, and Magnussen, Muller and Leitz are right there. Top 5. In fact, Leitz just dropped away a little bit. He's got a grandstand view of what's going on ahead of him, and in perfect position there, Jeremy Shaw, to pick up the pieces if any of these guys try something that doesn't quite come off, he said rather diplomatically.
Yeah, it's got a recipe for disaster actually, hasn't it, right here? But it's a tremendous battle, and you know, here we are, we can actually see here how closely matched these cars are, the Corvettes and the BMW and the Porsche hanging right in there right behind as well. But you know, the Ferraris certainly has been the fastest car in GT this week, but where is the best of the Ferraris? It's still there, it's not too far back. Marco Chiocci is now driving car number 71, 6th place in the class and still in contention. But I think he might have fallen back a bit last time around, actually, Chiocci. He's all of a sudden, he's lost about a half a minute.
Another little BMW mistake there at the hairpin, and that's going to put pressure on Dirk Muller as Richard Leitz has a shot in the blue Porsche. Just behind these two is where the action is. And again, just a missed braking point going into the hairpin.
Yeah, very interesting that lock in the rears there. That's two different BMWs having the same issue.
Is that a downshift issue then?
I wouldn't say it's downshift. It's whether they're just pushing a little bit harder in that braking area, whether the tyres haven't come back up to temperature since that last yellow. As the temperature's going down, there's a lot of different elements that it could be. But it was interesting. I had lunch with Tony Villander earlier, and he was saying the car was perfect all week, the Ferrari. And he got into the race and he said it was like someone flicked the switch and his dashboard just lit up like a Christmas tree. And yeah, he said unbelievable because the car had been perfect the whole week.
We'll talk about that braking area down into turn 7, and also down here into 17. You've got that sun now, it's getting lower and lower and lower, becoming more of a factor. The temperatures are going down. And again, that just relates to what you were saying there about the changes, everything is changing. The whole circumstance is just a little bit different.
Yeah, and this is still, remember, the battle in the top 5 for GT.
Dirk Müller dropped it back a little bit on that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, that was that mistake at the hairpin and cost him as Magnussen went through. And, got a little bit of an advantage. And there's Magnussen now beginning to hunt down. He's in the 0-3 Corvette in the centre of your screen. And look at the first and second battle. And he is not that far away from making a challenge on Uwe Alsen, and that actually would help his teammate out, Richard Westbrook, wouldn't it, Marino, if Uwe had something to deal with in his mirrors?
Absolutely, a bit of rear guard there. If he can fill up the BMW's mirrors, it's definitely going to help Richard make a break.
Just watching here, this was a few moments ago, just what we were talking about. There's that lock up. You can see just in the background there, the change of surface, and that is quite a big bump there.
That's a huge bump. It's a huge bump. Ah, he's caught the edge of the track.
Oh, he's caught the edge of the track, yeah.
So that simplifies our answer there.
Driver error. But he's on the ragged edge at that point. You know, people always say, well, why don't you just brake a bit later or go a bit deeper at the corner? Because you can't.
But that's also what I've been interested in one. You see, he's moving about trying to find an advantage behind the car. It's like when you're on a street circuit. You've got to be careful that you don't try and peek out to see where you're going, because you'll hit the wall. It could happen here in one. You see it at Long Beach as we go forward. So you're already on the limit, but you're also looking for a small advantage. And you're trying to see ahead sometimes, and you just peek out from behind the car and forget that there's a wall there.
So this GT battle continues. Let's go to Rick Brule in the pits.
And the team has already, for the BMW folks, have already started strategizing to the end of the race. They're already beginning to back time, trying to figure out how many stops left. Now, they can't predict yellows, obviously, but they were trying to figure out. And then you see on the left there, that's Bruno Capri. He just came over from IndyCar. He was Oriol Servia's engineer last year. This is the first time he's ever engineered one of these cars. So far, he's doing pretty good. Jay O'Connell on the right, the team manager, the strategist. They're already starting to back time. What's it going to take to win this race?
Yeah, great insight there from down in the pits. And just what we were talking about earlier on, people working backwards from the end of the race. 3 hours and 36 minutes to go. The sun beginning to fall, and that will become even more of a factor. If you've never watched this race before, you're in for a treat. And we will have significant amounts of darkness running, as once again the 155 Olsen has closed right up again. Muller has closed right up to Magnussen. Olsen has closed right up to Westbrook. And there is a significant amount of darkness to run as well. And we'll talk about that in a moment.
Didn't take Dirk Müller long to catch up back up again, did it?
No, he's the leaders coming through.
Yeah.
And this is a different danger. Now, this was a little bit earlier on. The 97 Aston Martin was in that mix, and I always say it's never a good day when a part of the car is doing a faster lap time than you. The left rear wheel coming completely unattached, and in fact that Fresh from Florida sign almost playing the fence. The car is back in the race and running in 10th position with Adrian Fernandez at the moment, 35th overall and 10th, getting some valuable points in the World Endurance Championship for Aston Martin Racing. However, dare we take our eyes off Richard Westbrook? Answer no, as through goes Robin Dumas through that battle. Those Audi lights are astonishingly bright, aren't they?
They really are. I thought they calmed down a little bit from last year, but as it starts to get dark, they're certainly as bright as they ever were.
But it's even in bright sunshine, they are so white. It is quite, not that blue tinge that you sometimes see on gas discharge headlights. They are just ultra white, like the most polished set of teeth in the world. Now this was just a few moments ago as well. Remember, we showed this to you. That was a very scary moment for Nicolosi in the red PC car, and that was Henri Richard, and I'm afraid the end of the Dempsey Racing Challenge in PC. Beautiful colour scheme on that car, really works with the shape of that machine.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I was thinking that yesterday. I was walking about. It looks really good. Kind of like Simon Pagenaud's new Indy car, which I think is the best looking paint job. It just works with the shape of the car.
So the GT battle continues with Westbrook, Olsen, Magnussen, Müller and Richard Leitz. 2 Corvettes, 2 BMWs and a Porsche, with a Ferrari in 6th position, making another manufacturer. Ciocci's just hanging on. He's about 50 seconds behind this battle and lapping in very similar times. If he was there, he would be competitive. 2:01.5 to 2:02.5 in that battle at the moment, and Ciocci's doing a 2:02.5. You just feel at any moment that something could happen here, and this is real pressure, Marino, isn't it? Particularly for someone like Richard Westbrook. He's leading this category here, and even though there's not a car right up his tailpipes, he knows he cannot make a mistake. He's absolutely on it every lap. This is almost like qualifying every lap now.
Absolutely. The sports car races are like that these days. You have to be at the maximum every single lap. The easiest time for Richard is right now, when he's just running clean laps on his own, no traffic. It's when he's getting passed by other LMP cars. That's when it's very difficult, because you can lose a huge amount of time and open up a chance for your competition to pass you.
How important then is it for your team to be feeding you information? They'll be watching these pictures as well. They may even have spotters out around the circuit to be saying, right, here's McNish coming through. Is that helpful to you?
Hugely, and it's important to know who the driver is, not just that it's an Audi, because each driver is different. Like, I would always find out in the Corvette, because Olivier Beretta was always a nightmare to try and pass, so I wanted to know if it was him that was coming up to try and pass. Just things like that. You get to know people's personality. People have personalities when they're behind the wheel. They drive certain ways, so it's important to know who's in the car, and it lets you kind of build up a game plan in your head of how you're going to deal with it.
McNish, by the way, is still leading the motor race. I haven't seen him for a while. There's Dumas in 2nd place, but he's almost 21 seconds behind now, Alan McNish, and he hasn't taken time out of Al for a wee while. Kraus Graf is still just one lap behind, and lapping very consistently in the mid 150s, 150.6 last time around. Peter Dumbrack hasn't been able to close in on 3rd place in the number 22 HPD, the GRM car. Sort of 54 seconds behind. That hasn't really changed very much in this last stint. Further lap back, Neil Yarney in the best of the Rebellions, the 12 car, the 13 Rebellion Lola, with big problems early on. He's back out and circulating though. Is down in 11th place with Jerome Blekemolen. No, he's not. Yes, it is. Thought my eyes weren't that bad. 13 car is in 11th place in P1, 46th overall. And though there have been a number of cars, Jeremy, that have had problems, we've had surprisingly few actually declared retirements.
Yeah, I think there's a few more that haven't actually been declared out of the race. But you're right. I mean, we haven't seen the 59 car, Jamie Mello. That hasn't been officially retired, I don't think. But we haven't seen that for a long time. The number 95 level 5 car of Ryan Hunter-Reay and Luis Diaz, that is out of the race effectively, even though it hasn't been officially retired. And Olivia Lombard, also in car number 23, we're not going to see that again either, I don't think. The Signatech Nissan, that had problems relatively early on in the afternoon. So there's several other cars that are out, but lately, apart from the crash that befell Henri Richard, there hasn't been too much attrition over the last several hours.
What's going on in the pits right now, Marino, particularly if you're a driver who's about to get in? What are you talking to the team about? How are you preparing yourself to get into, let's say, a fight like this GT battle at the moment.
I think you're very interested to know what tyres you're going to be on. If they've made the switch to the softer tyres for the cooler running. If you're in an open car, let's say, you would be thinking about what visor you have on, but really, there's no difference now. Every stint for me is the same. You know, even if you're in that battle at the end, you prepare the same way every time, because continuity is what brings good success.
The voice of Nissan Delta Wing driver Marino Franchitti, who, along with Jeremy Shaw and myself, John Hindorf, are wrapped as that GT battle continues. But that is our leader. The yellow mirrors tell me that, even though we can't see that it's the number 2 Audi. Well, now we can, it's on the nose. And that has been a driver change, because Alan McNish is sitting on the pit wall, his distinctive tartan helmet band, and the man on the left-hand side straying dangerously close to Peugeot's sock puppet, helping out the driver getting in, who is Christensen in there?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it's Dindo Capello.
It's Dindo.
Yeah, it's Dindo.
It's Dindo. It's swapped. Because Tom got in. Tom got in after Al last time.
Which means Tom's going to take it to the finish,
Correct.
obviously.
Correct. Exactly right. See the drive shaft just spinning around on the right-hand side there. There's a bit of tape on it, and you can see it spinning around. I love stuff like that.
Me too.
just underneath the cowling there. So Dindo Capello came in from the lead. He's lost that to Romain Dumas, who presumably will pit next time around, and Dindo is back out. Oh, and off. Oh, that is the 30 car. Now, this has been one of the leading cars in GTC. It was either first or second when this accident happened, and it is thumbs up from the driver, who is Enrique Cisneros. Well, that is a fabulous break for Dindo, having just got his pit stop in.
That's exactly what happened last round of pit stops.
With McNish.
With McNish, he came in, went out again, and then the yellow came out.
That is straight on at...
Yeah, it's 13.
13, yeah. I can't... Well, I can see a little bit of black marks behind the car, but he might have been helped off to that.
You know, about an hour ago, I was down there talking with the team, and I asked, how are things going? And they said, don't talk to us now, talk to us in 5 hours. You know what an endurance race is like. Anything can happen over a course of time, and that's exactly what happened. The worst part for this team is they had actually overcome a series of little minor problems, little teeny things that'll spend a little extra time in the pits, but enough that it didn't cause a serious problem. Well, now they're going to have to deal with something a little more major.
Yeah, fair point, actually.
We saw that car lead a lot of laps early on in the race, and it's now the 023 car, the Alex Jobe racing car, that's in the lead of the class. Whoa.
Look at that. I'm not sure he had any retardation at all there, or if he did, he may have been fighting against a stuck throttle or something. But that's a scary moment for Enrique Cisneros, stalwart of this GTC and indeed the IMSA GT3 category over the last couple of seasons. Glad to see that he got himself. Nice to see he put his thumb up as well as soon as he gathered his thoughts, just to let everybody know he was all right. And again, tyres have done their job. That is called energy dissipation.
Yeah, Cisneros, he won the GT3 Cup Platinum Challenge class in 2010. So, yeah, as you say, a fair bit of experience now he's gained over the last 2 or 3 years in Porsches, and a pretty accomplished pilot.
That 023 car that is now leading the category, of course, that's an interesting one, because Townsend Bell and Bill Sweedler are two of the drivers who will be driving the Lotus Evora. And Townsend just getting a bit of experience in the series before the Alex Jobe Lotus Evora comes on. Well, the tyres have dissipated that energy, but the wall has moved a little bit, and that car's gone in there pretty deep. Imagine if the tyres hadn't been there. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and you can't see much.
That's what I said. Yeah,
can you?
That's what I said.
I think this will be quite a long yellow, because they're going to have to rebuild that wall.
Yeah,
the tyre wall certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the wall itself, but the actual tyre wall. Yeah, it's going to be quite a long yellow.
You see that the tyres are banded and fastened together in groups of 2 there, and then laid in front of each other and not fastened together. A lot of people ask why that is, and wouldn't it not? It's exactly the point, that they want them to move and to dissipate that energy. Yeah. And it works. It sometimes looks a little bit old-fashioned and a bit Heath Robinson, but if you've ever hit the tyres and then ever hit concrete, trust me, you'll take the tyres every time, won't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember having a very big off at Sunny Out at Croft a few years ago on dry tyres on a damp track, and got half a car's width off and went sideways.
Quickly became more than that, huh?
Yes, it did. It quickly got out of control, and I was very lucky. I went in passenger side first into tyres, moved the wall a good 3 feet actually, but the tyres did their job. Paul Trafford, who was the British touring car medical expert then,
still is,
is he? Traff, good fella. He wouldn't let me go back out until he'd had a good look over me. I was convinced I'd done more damage to myself than I had. I tell you, I have to say, nasty bruises where the harnesses had bitten in. There are the leaders. We're under caution. Just under 3.5 hours still to go here at Sebring.
What do you drive? Is it inspiring? Was it built by a behemoth car maker? Or insightful craftsmen obsessing over the details, building better cars for a discerning few? Are you one of the few who care about what you drive and how it drives? We're with you because we believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
Hi, I'm Dennis Gage, and I gotta tell you about a smart charging system that keeps my entire fleet of machines on call at all times. It's called Battery Tender, and it's not just for my classic cars. Deltran battery tenders have a microprocessor that monitors everything. It never overcharges. It just takes batteries up to a full charge and keeps them there. So whether it's cars, motorcycles, mowers, or ATVs, Battery Tender keeps them all ready for action. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
The wind can run, but it can't hide.
Presenting the official American Le Mans Series merchandise collection. Inspired by the world leader in green racing. Represent your favorite series with authentic event shirts, hats, jackets, and other gear. It's available at every race in Vendor Village and, of course, at ALMS.com.
Welcome back to Sebring. The cleanup continues there down in turn 13 on Enrique Cisneros. You can see they pulled the Momo car out of the pit wall, and now the corner workers will go to work on fixing the damage down there. Expecting a pit stop for the race leader, Romain Dumas. He hasn't yet come into the pits. We saw his teammate Dindo Capello in the race leading car. It was Alain McNish who came in just before this round of this caution period came out. McNish came in, handed over to Capello, and so Dumas, according to my records, he should have been due for a pit stop any time. Now there is Enrique Cisneros, so good to see him out of the car. I'm sure very relieved, because that was a very major impact. And let's go down to Jamie Howe and hear about what these guys are dealing with in terms of visibility.
Well, when we think about a large field of cars like here at Sebring, you know that visibility is going to be key. One thing that IMSA has mandated this year on the GT cars are larger side view mirrors. Take a look at this mirror. This is last year's mirror. You see how small it is? It also doesn't have any wiring connecting into the car. Then you look at this year's mirror. This is a much, much larger mirror. It also has tinted glass. That's going to help at night with particularly the Audis with their very bright LED lights. It also has a wire. That is so the driver can control the mirror position. That is also new for this year. So IMSA is doing everything that they can do to try to make sure that these GT drivers have as much visibility as possible. And in talking to the drivers so far, it works.
Excellent story, Jamie Howe. And you know, visibility is always a problem in any kind of race car, isn't it, Marino? And I think a very good step forward there by the ALMS.
I think it's a great idea, because if everyone has to have it, it's a great thing, because everyone then is in the same boat, and it's obviously if it's working for everyone, it's a very good thing for all concerned.
And the Audi didn't come on the pit lane. Romain Dumas. We see a couple of cars, and the number 6 car of Klaus Graf. He makes a pit stop here. He's competed now lap 230. He's still running in 3rd place overall, and I think this will probably allow Peter Dumbreck to go through and take that 3rd position. Now running on slightly different strategy. We talked about that during the last caution period, and Rick de Bruyne is there.
That's right, they've come in, they have already completed their driver change. You know, this is the 3rd type of car that this team has raced in 3 years. Remember, they had the RS Spider 2.5 years ago. Last year, they ran the closed cockpit car. Now they're going to a different car, a new set of challenges, a new adventure. But so far, they've actually adapted pretty well to it.
Oh, that was a bit tight on the exit, and still tight again. 2 close shaves there. Now let's have a look at the timing and scoring. Still Roman and Dindo. Look at that. Now we know why the Muscle Milk car came out like the clappers there. Look who's behind him, Jeremy. Yeah, that's right, the 22 car, which didn't really need a pit stop, I don't think, car number 22, but they took the opportunity, and again, smart move by JRM. Nigel Stepney is the technical director there, and I'm sure he's calling the shots. Nigel Stepney, of course, was with Ferrari for many, many years, all through the Schumacher years, or most of it. There's a massive amount of experience there. They've made a stop onto the previous caution, now just came in and splashed, topped it off with fuel, so now they're on exactly the same strategy. It's going to be a fascinating contest when when we go back to green, that battle for 3rd and 4th overall. So go back and just see how important it was to Lucas Luhr to get out in front of the 22. He just about dodges the back of the PC car, and yeah, he says, I'll be having that. Absolutely looks in the mirrors, right then left. He knew what he was doing there completely. So down to the last 3.25 hours, it seems like we're almost on the home stretch, and whilst, you know, I've got to say this race has gone over quite quickly, to be honest, gentlemen, and I've had something to keep my attention pretty much all of the time. It's been slightly staccato in places with the propensity for the clumping together of yellow flags that we've seen, but I think we're getting, and one other thing, point I want to make is I think the ACO are getting some very interesting data on how these cars are running on the long green flag runs that we've had. And in terms of performance balancing, now I'll admit that the Audi is last year's car, but the petrol cars seem to be in performance a lot closer than they have been in previous years. I think they're a lot closer, certainly, but as you say, this is not the newest generation of Audi diesel, so we're going to have to see in a few weeks' time at Spa, when the next round of the WEC takes place, whether that is going to be significantly different or not. Just to say what you're seeing here, the fork driver there is bringing in new bundles of tyres. If you remember, the other ones were blue that Enrique Cisnero went into. So he's dropping in some green ones. They're brand new. Right, here we go. It's now down to the crews. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top 5 in GT. Into the pit lane. 2 BMWs, 2 Corvettes and a Porsche. And now it's over to the men with the air guns. Let's see if there's any tricky pit strategy here as they all hit their pits. Corvettes are stopping first. And all together pretty much on the pit lane as well. Great stuff. Marco Chiocci also into the pit lane as well in the 71 car. Rick de Bruyne.
I feel like I'm in a boxing ring with boxers on either side. The Corvettes to my left, the BMWs to my right. Corvettes having a smooth thing. Remember, we were talking about strategy. I talked with the BMW guys. They were already working on their late night strategy. Corvettes said they were holding off because they didn't know how many yellows they were going to get. Well, this is an example of one of those yellows. But BMW says they weren't deciding anything. They just wanted just in case. Now they got a clean stop, and the Corvette gets out, but there's one of the BMWs that gets out ahead of them.
Oh, and there's the Porsche almost getting by one of the Corvettes. They were side by side for a moment on the pit lane speed limiter, and that got a bit hairy at 60 kilometers per hour. But they leave as they arrived. BMWs have turned around. Corvettes, Corvette, BMW, Corvette, and they are leaving. BMW, Corvette, BMW, Corvette. Yes, absolutely right. So they beat them both out.
Driver changes. Where are the driver changes? Yeah, Antonio Garcia has taken over the wheel of that car.
Joey Hand in the 56
so
car.
That has changed as well.
And Jörg Müller in the other one.
Not Uwe Alsen. Jörg, another man who's already done a 24-hour race this year. He was out in Dubai, racing at the BMW Saudi Falcons team by Schubert in the Z4. Look at that. So, no, well, I'll let them go across a timing loop and confirm the drivers.
Ollie Gavin got in the other car and Antonio Garcia's in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Ollie Gavin back in the 4 car. But these, as you can see there from that picture, BMWs have stolen a march, and that is very impressive indeed. Generally acknowledged that the Pratt & Miller guys are among the best in terms of pit lane and pit work.
Yeah, but BMW, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, they're not bad either, are they? Let's face it.
That's true.
Tom Anderson has joined that team over the winter. He's there to sort of direct all the different programs. Of course, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan is running also now an Italod IndyCar Series car for the full season. And Tom, of course, he was latterly with Fernandez Racing a couple of years ago, and then after that with Andretti Autosport for the last couple of years. And I think he's certainly enjoying his role now at Rahal Letterman as well. And you know, he's not directly involved necessarily. Well, he's directly involved in all the programs, but not really particularly running any of them. But his experience, excellent for that team.
Now, another category where there's been a change is GTE AM. Paolo Roberti in the 88 Felbermeyer Porsche has got ahead of the 50 car. Now here comes the Dumas. Oh my goodness me, news from down in the pit lane that Felbermeyer have made a drastic error, and Jamie Howe is down there. Jamie.
The number 3 Audi has come to a stop on pit lane. They are going to do a driver change. Romain Dumas getting out of the car. Loic Duval getting behind the wheel of the car. You'll notice that they have pitted out of sequence. They did that on purpose. The number 2 car came in with prototypes. The number 77 from Felbermeyer Porsche came in right behind them with the GT cars. They wanted to come in when it was clean. Now what happened though was the 77 car from Felbermeyer, actually it's the 88 car from Felbermeyer came in. It was a clean stop from Audi, but the 77 from Felbermeyer, they have a stop and go plus 20 seconds. They had an extremely fast pit stop when they came in. However, they had 1 extra man over the wall, and that is not allowed. But it was a clean stop for the race leader.
And the race lead, of course, has now gone back to Dindo Capello. Now
and once again, he's going to have to work his way through the entire pack, as he had to do a couple of cautions ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just not going their way at the moment. The luck of the dice isn't going to win number 3 car lately.
Top of the PC category is now on the first page of scoring. 16th overall, the 06 has Brian Frizzell at the wheel of that car. EJ Viso is out and talking with Rick.
That's right, EJ Viso, whose deal just came together a very short time ago. Let's first talk about what it's like driving this car and what it's like leading this race in PC.
Well, it's a very fun car to drive. Definitely it's something I've been waiting for, and I'm very grateful that everything got together last week. I was at home, and one of my friends called me, which is my teammate from Venezuela as well, and he just asked me if I wanted to race, and for sure I didn't. I took the opportunity, and here I am, very happy about it.
It didn't get any real significant testing before this. How different is this than the IndyCar that you'll be in this coming week in St. Petersburg?
Well, definitely the car is very different. He has some pretty unique characteristics. but you know, the principle of driving is pretty much the same. It's a very fun car to drive. I'm really excited, and you know, after the few laps, I was already used to the car. Like I've driven it before, and it was amazing.
Of course, it's always fun when you're leading the race. That's EJ Viso.
Thanks, Rick. Always a smile on his face, EJ. Smashing guy. Been a while since he's been at the head of a field. He did a pretty good job there. It looks like we're drawing the curtain on the 9th caution. So we come down to the last 3 hours, last quarter of the race. It's about an hour of light to go. An hour before we start getting dark. It is a bit like turning off a light switch here. The sun drops relatively quickly. So Dindo Capello, with no pressure at all behind him here. He's got one of the 44 Lizard behind him. And Loic Duval is in second place in the 3 car, but he's some 45 seconds further back. It's the GT category that we'll have to keep an eye on as we head through the traffic.
Didn't time that so well there. You see he's backed everybody up because he was scared of passing the safety car before it got into pit lane. So he didn't drop back far enough before he went there, so you can't pass the safety car before it's reached pit lane. So yeah, a little bit of again the concertina effect there,
and that has allowed the #1 car of Andre Lotterer, Le Mans winning driver lineup in that 1 car, and that is why it wears the #1. The ACO and the FIA were going to give the numbers 1 and 2 to Peugeot because they won the championship, but when Peugeot declined to take part in WEC, sorry to remind you about that, Marino, Audi got it for being the Mans winner. And that was on board with the Muscle Milk car of Lucas Löhr. And he has, well, where's Peter Dumbreck gone? Because he was right up his tailpipes as they went across the start-finish line, just 0.026 of a second. And
he's either in front or he's way behind.
Well,
there's no middle ground there.
He's not ahead, is he? He's dropped way back. That's not him ahead of the Muscle Milk car. So what happened to Peter Dumbreck at the restart? Well, across the line, it was 0.026 of a second, and 3/4 of the way around the lap. He wasn't even in that picture. So has the GRM car suffered a problem? Oof, see the vibration from the curb. No, there he is. He has dropped back though, good second or so, maybe even more. Got cars between him.
Easily done it on a restart though, just the luck of the draw sometimes, or if you pick a side. You saw Lucas there looking for a way past a couple of cars and just couldn't quite find it, but I'm sure Peter will get into his rhythm and will start to catch back up.
In fact, that isn't Peter, that's the 37 car, is it? Oh, there's Peter. He's 2 back.
He's in front.
He's not.
He's in front, mate.
He has got in front of him. No wonder we can't find him.
I told you he might be in front.
I thought you were being overly Scottish and optimistic there.
Not at all.
well, in that case, well done, Peter Dumbreck. He timed it perfectly and got ahead on the restart.
Very impressive when you consider the limited amount of time that Peter's had in this car.
Well, any of them have had in that car. They've done a lot of sim work, in fairness, at Worth, but I'm not sure they've even done a full test in that car before they got here.
No, absolutely. They finished it here. So very much like we did last year, finished it here at the track and took it racing.
So Dumbreck pulls out a 2.5 seconds on Lucas Löhr. And so GRM up into 3rd place. And I think that's the first time they've been in the top 3. On board with Klaus Graf, Lucas Löhr, excuse me.
I think that's one of the many golf cars in front of Peter there, one of the P1s. I think it's a Pescarolo, the Oak car. Is it the Oak car? Very fast in a straight line, so it looks like Peter's a lot quicker under braking in the corners, but just can't quite clear it in the straights.
Oh, he's got a great dive down the inside into the first right-hander of the Jean de Bihan bends, but in fairness, through goes Lucas as well. And this is a real battle on the track into the sunset at turn 17. Peter Dumbreck for GRM HPD and Lucas Löhr for Muscle Milk HPD.
Now let's see who's running what aero configuration. Looks like, just looking at it from here, that the Muscle Milk car's got a little bit more rear wing, but that might just be a visual thing with the stickers.
Do you see that? Can you tell that just by looking?
Yeah, I think it's the stickers though. But if you look, you can see it looks like it's got a little bit more angle. You just see a bit more surface.
Yeah, I'll give you that. You might be right.
But then I may be wrong too.
There's nothing between them in terms of performance. And this is a good drive by both of these guys. Neither of them have had the car for very long. As we said, GRM haven't even had a real test before they got here to Sebring. Finished the car on the premises, heading down towards the hairpin.
I mean, Lucas is, I think at the moment, the only sports car world champion that's in this race. You know, he's the reigning GT1 world champion, so he's absolutely top drawer, and as is Peter. But yeah, it's interesting that in this FIA race is already a world champion from last year in our midst.
Michael Crum, of course, your teammate at Nissan Delta Wing. Another part of that configuration.
Absolutely, and I highly recommend Michael's book to everyone out there.
Fantastic,
it's fantastic. If you're a professional driver, if you're just starting out, definitely check out Michael's book on driving. It takes you through every single part of what it takes to be a professional driver, and really enjoyed reading that.
The thing I liked about it, and I said this to him at the London launch of the Nissan Delta Wing, I can hear him saying the words. It hasn't been overly edited or ghost written for him. I can actually hear him saying the words as I read them.
Absolutely, and the examples that they put in there, you can follow along very easily. In fact, my wife's in line to read it once. I'm actually rereading it for the second time, and yeah, my wife's going to be reading it next, she says.
Yeah, highly recommended. Down into the sunset again, and again. Oh, it was the 16 car that they were stuck up behind there. The 016 of Guy Smith, the Lola.
You could just hear the traction control there as Lucas had to turn more in the middle of the corner and get in the power. You could just hear the traction control. They're so well tuned now, you barely notice it, but you can just hear it kicking in over the bumps.
Tuned for sideways movement as well as wheel spin, yaw, as well as just basic wheel spin as well, which is something that's come in the last few years.
Absolutely. So instead of just the difference in the speed, if it was just wheel speed, then it would be the difference in speed between the front wheel and the rear wheel. And when it would become too wide, the difference in speed, and you would feel it would see the wheel spin, it would cut the RPM. Whereas now, obviously, as you say, the car, you can actually sense the yaw of the car, the angle that the car is in the track, and if it gets past a certain angle, it intervenes then as well.
And how much control do you have over that typically in a prototype car, in terms of how aggressive it comes in and what it does when it does come in?
Each car is different, but you certainly, as a driver, you have control. During the week, you'll be working to set your range of traction control that you think is going to work in all dry conditions, all the different tyres, and also if it rains, you have to have a setting in there for that. But some cars you can actually change how much the traction control is coming in and when it's coming in. So each car is different.
And would you do that on a corner by corner basis, or would the car know where it is on the track in terms of its GPS positioning and its distance?
If the car doesn't have distance-based traction control where it's done by GPS, you don't want to be changing it corner by corner. Right. But there's certainly a lot of gains to be made when you have the distance-based system where it tunes itself to each corner, a little more some corners and a little less in others. It's definitely worth a bit of time.
And basically you build up that data in the car over the week that you're at the track.
Absolutely, especially when you have so much time on track like we do here at Sebring.
Just not gaining enough down the start-finish line into turn number 1 for Lucas Luhr to make a meaningful pass. Oh, now he's getting interested, and he shows the nose of his car to Peter Dumbreck, and Peter studiously ignores him. Didn't block him off there, but wasn't intimidated either.
No, just took his line there, and you know, these are two obviously evenly matched cars because they're almost identical. So, you know, Lucas, I'm sure he feels it's a little bit faster perhaps than Peter Dumbreck, but finding a way past is not going to be easy at all.
And they know each other well, as they were teammates at JRM last year in GT1. So they've raced together a lot, so they should have a good read of the other driver.
And they're not going to do anything stupid to each other either because of that, because they are, you know, pretty good buddies. Lucas Luhr, you know, he's won this race 5 times in the past, class wins, 4 of those for Alex Job Racing in a row. from 2000 to 2003, and then again in 2005 he won this race. So he's got a huge amount of success here in a whole bunch of different cars as well, but he would love to add a prototype victory to that roster.
Whilst we're watching this battle for the final podium position overall and in P1, I should just say that there's a cracking scrap going on between Christian Bouchou and Ryan DL in respectively the 055 level 5 car and the 44 Starworks machine, and they're in 7th and 8th position overall, and there's barely second between them. There's also Kel Surprise, a great GT battle going on with Ollie Gavin, Joey Hand, Jörg Muller, Andy Garcia and Mark Lieb, all within 3 seconds at the head of that GT field.
Indeed, and Andrea Bertolini has taken over the wheel again of the car number 71, the Ferrari, and he is now closing as well. He set the fastest lap of anybody last time around at 2 minutes 1.6. That's a very good lap indeed. Certainly, I don't think anybody's been in the ones lately in GT, so Marco Chiocci drove the last stint, Bertolini back behind the wheel, and I think before too long we're going to have a 6-car train at the front of that class.
And staying in GT, but GT AM for the World Endurance Championship, Bornhauser has got back ahead of the 88 Felbermeyer Porsche, Gianluca Rosa now in that car.
The 22 from JRM Racing, that car was finished being assembled here just this week. It's remarkable that the team was able to get the car out on track. One of their biggest advantages, this is their first take and their first look at prototype sports car racing. One of their biggest advantages is David Brabham. Because this is an HPD car and David Brabham has been involved since the beginning of HPD prototype racing, they are using him and all of his knowledge, and right now it's helping that car advance forward.
And right in front of that battle, as you saw from the Porsche aerial cam, a big blow up for, is that the 15? It is the 15 Oak car. I thought it was a roofed car when we were looking at it actually, but that is the Oak Racing car. Guillaume Moreau, 7th position in P1, 10th overall. He's walking away, he knows there's nothing to do with that. I think that, I'm afraid, is the Judd engine that has called enough.
Yeah, you can see smoke, a lot of smoke coming out of the right bank. The exhaust exits on the side on this car, just in front of the rear wheel, and you could see just a lot of smoke coming out.
Well, hopefully, because he was right on the racing line. He did pull off onto the grass nice and early though, so he was being thoughtful. Let's hope he hasn't left too much fluid down there.
Shame he wasn't able to let it coast a little bit farther and get off right out of the way there, because you can kind of go down there to the left and behind the tyre wall and get it right out of the way. So
the other advantage of that is it's a shorter walk to the bar in the chateau.
Yes, quite.
Yeah.
Lucas definitely has a decent advantage through one. It seems quite even the rest of the lap, but through one it definitely looks like Lucas is getting a good run on him there.
Familiarity, I mean, Lucas has done a lot of laps around this place. Peter Brunbeck not nearly so many.
It could be that, and it also could be the amount of downforce that they're running in the
10th full course caution brought out by this car parked in the runoff to the hairpin at turn number 7, with just under 3 hours still to run. And Guillaume Moreau walks back somewhat disconsolately, waited for the full course caution to come out before he went back to the car. And that's a shame, because that was certainly earlier on that car was putting in reasonable times and was sitting right up at the sharper end of the field.
It led the petrol engine class for petrol engine class for quite a long time. You can see some fluids leaking out from underneath the front of the left rear tyre.
So just under 3 hours to run. 10th caution. Capello leads by 43 seconds. That brings you up to date with what's going on at the head of the field in P2. It's Bouchou from DL with barely anything between them. Ah, that's handy. I don't have to look at the timing screen now. The 7th position car there is 0.55, not 4.55 as it was.
By the way, scratch what I was saying about all the GT cars not getting in the 2:01s. They're actually down to 2-minute flats right now.
Absolutely. And the battle in the GT category has been fast and furious all of the afternoon. And some potential competitors in the GT3, which were racing earlier this week. And An outstanding 34-car field for the IMSA GT3 Cup Challenge by Yokohama here at Sebring, and early problems for one of last year's real stars. Madison Snow, with damage, would recover to 13th position. Tim McKenzie having a look at the new Turn 1 here at Sebring, but couldn't quite get it done. Michael Mills led the Platinum class home, and in the Gold class, the 05 of Angel Benitez Jr. stood on the top step of the podium. We're back at Sebring with more action from the 12 hours next, here on ESPN 3.
What do you drive? Is it inspiring? Was it built by a behemoth car maker? Or insightful craftsmen obsessing over the details, building better cars for a discerning few? Are you one of the few who care about what you drive and how it drives? We're with you, because we believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. We build Mazdas. What do you drive?
Hi, I'm Dennis Gage, and I gotta tell you about a smart charging system that keeps my entire fleet of machines on call at all times. It's called Battery Tender, and it's not just for my classic cars. Deltran battery tenders have a microprocessor that monitors everything. It never overcharges. It just takes batteries up to a full charge and keeps them there. So whether it's cars, motorcycles, mowers, or ATVs, Battery Tender keeps them all ready for action. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
The wind can run, but it can't hide.
Presenting the official American Le Mans Series merchandise collection. Inspired by the world leader in green racing. Represent your favorite series with authentic event shirts, hats, jackets, and other gear. It's available at every race in Vendor Village and, of course, at ALMS.com.